Somebody will.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. The question of the Spirit Fund. Looks like everyone is present except Tom Belter of the commission, so we'll continue on as that. First thing on the agenda is the public comments. Anyone wishing to speak to the commission today, you can please stand up, state your name and address and what you'd like to say. Just if you want to come right up here and then over there in the corner, I guess we'll all be able to see you. Good, great. Is that good? That's good. First one. I'm gonna go first here. I'm Commissioner Jeff Booth on the Larson Winchester Sanitary Board. We're here today. We have a statement that Holly Stevens, our secretary, is gonna be reading. And it gives us the outline of what we're looking for, gives us some ARPA funds for what we're doing. We also have Connie Kirshner, he's a commissioner of the board, and then we have support from Battle, and it's also here. So we're taking our time for your public comment and see what we can do for us. At this time, I'll turn it over to Holly.
Okay, so a lot of you know me as the clerk for the town of Winchester, but I'm wearing a different hat today. I'm secretary for the Larson Winchester Sanitary District. So just a brief little history, I handed out information to each of you. The Larson Winchester Sanitary District was formed in the late 1970s through the cooperative efforts of the towns of Clayton and Winchester and under the provisions of Wisconsin Statutes Chapter 60. Since its inception, the district has been operating as a separate government unit. The district is self-funded and does not receive any financial support from the towns of Clayton or Winchester, and as such, the district has not received any ARPA funding directly from the federal government or through the towns. The Larson Winchester Sanitary District currently serves 311 users, comprised primarily of residential customers, but also including a few local businesses. The costs for all district operations are borne by this customer base. And it should be noted, we do not have water services. We only provide sewage disposal. For the past 40 years, the district has efficiently and successfully operated a controlled discharge lagoon system permitted through the DNR Wisconsin Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Program, WPDES. Managing our infrastructure and operations while keeping costs affordable for the district users. Recently, through the WPDES program, Governor Tony Evers and his DNR have set and imposed ammonia and phosphorus discharge limitations, which the existing treatment facility is unable to meet. As such, these requirements result in an unfunded mandate, forcing the district to undertake a complete wastewater treatment plant overhaul and upgrade. Not only is the plant upgrade necessary to continue the provision of services to the current customer base, it is also necessary for any economic development in the communities lying within our district boundaries. Over the past couple of years, the district board and staff have been working to comply with the mandate, developing and submitting a facility plan to the DNR. On May 31st of last year, we received plan approval, and we are currently in the process of designing the new wastewater treatment plant, which, when completed, will be submitted for further review and approvals by the DNR. The associated costs with this unfunded mandate are quickly adding up, with the preliminary project estimates in excess of $6 million. The board is cognizant of the fact that these costs must be borne by the district's 311 users, and every effort is being made to minimize costs wherever and whenever possible. Despite these efforts, the cost to the individual customer is becoming exorbitant. As such, we are actively exploring funding solutions, including bonding and grants. However, quarterly customer billing is still expected to increase 400% to 500% or more. An increase we believe will be an unbearable expense to our customers. We have contacted federal representative Mike Gallagher, as well as our state representatives Rachel Cabral-Guevara and Nate Gustafson, requesting information and assistance through any federal and state funding programs respectively. While the representatives have been responsive, their efforts thus far have not provided any funding support. The common response received has been the suggestion to contact Winnebago County for potential assistance using funding provided through the American Rescue Plan Act, which brings us here today. We are respectfully requesting the ARPA Strategy and Outcomes Commission recognize the financial hardship the state's unfunded mandate has imposed on our local constituents, and we are respectfully requesting your assistance to offset the related costs. We realize no action or decision can be made today as the specific project is not included for discussion on your agenda. However, we are looking for confirmation that funding is still available, and if so, would the commission consider supporting the district's project? We are happy to provide a full project report and application should the commission be willing to assist. On behalf of the Larson Winchester Sanitary District, I would like to thank you for that consideration. And as I was preparing for today, I had one other thought that came in my head that is the obvious question that I think you as commissioners would have, and that is, what is our ask? Our ask is we will be grateful for any support that we can receive, but to put it in perspective, we have 311 users. And using census data this morning I pulled up, there are about 75% of our users are town of Winchester and 25% are town of Clayton. There are 2.4 persons, according to the census, in every household in the town of Winchester and 2.78 in Clayton. Considering that there's 750 people approximately that are bearing this cost. 10% of the estimated project cost would be $600,000, which equates to $800 a person. That's only 10% of the cost. The total project cost for those 750 customers to bear is going to be close to $20,000 a household. So again, while we're grateful for any consideration whatsoever, that just kind of puts it in perspective as to the monstrosity of need that we do have. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'd like to say thank you also. And I think you can see the need that we're at, where we are with this project. I've been on the board for 3.5 years, and we've been working on this project, just and keep trying to get this started and get our funding going. And so again, we did 100% raise already in the last 3.5 years to our consumers, trying to offset the maintenance fees of our system because it is getting older. And plus, we're trying to get some money put aside to start helping with this project. And that alone created a lot of stir already. And we had our town meeting, the public hearing, and to address them and let them know that this is a mandate and we have to do it. And we will do our best to find funding for it. So anything possible, anything that can help, any direction, funding will be greatly appreciated by our board and the people of our community. Thank you.
Question? Is there another district that you can tie into?
We have that. We put 3 proposals in that we had to put in. So we had a direct connection with Foxtrot. And we also had a mechanical system. And we went with a Lemtech system. We went to Forest Junction and we looked at their community size. And we came up with a Lemtech system that we feel would be more efficient for our size of community. It's like the Lemtech system is like 6.2 million. And if you go into a mechanical system, you're between 8 and 9 million. And to do a direct hookup was even closer than that.
And additionally, the direct hookup moves control over rates for our customer base, and the board was not comfortable giving up those controls. We'd still be required to manage the infrastructure and all the operations, but we have no control over system rates.
And we're in an area where it's a pretty far push to get it to Foxtrot.
6 mile course.
Yeah, the costs are extremely high because you gotta blast all the way through and then you gotta push the first 7 miles to get there. So there's a lot of other things to look at for down the road costs that we felt the Lemtech system would do the best. And that's the one that's the one we went in with the DNR, and the DNR has approved our system. So that's why we're in the stages right now. Because there's 6.2 million in budget proposals. We don't have hard proposals. We're hoping we can stay there, but as you all know, the last 3.5 years, the costs have been driven. and where we're at. So right now, we're in the process of designing. We had a meeting last night. We're pretty close to our final layout and what it will do for us and, move forward. We're trying to get funding and everything so we can start building in 2025. They actually want to be building in 23, but we are, because we want to be first on the list for some of these fundings that are out there before, and now we're gonna be a little farther down on the list, and some of the funding we're gonna get harder to get. So, but that's where it is, and that's our goal. Our goal is to be building.
For clarity, does the discharge from the system enter into a public water body?
Yes,
And that triggers the new control, correct?
yes, it's discharged into a secondary ditch which drains into the Arrowhead River.
And it's a phosphorus level. Everybody has it.
Yes.
But if you're a mechanical system, I mean, you got a tertiary system that you can put in that can help with this, and that's where you get into what we're doing. So this Lemtech system, it is mechanical, it's simple mechanical, but then you also don't need an everyday person on site. You can manage this system with one person. And, you can meet all the standards and everything. Right now, we have a 5-year variance that we have from the DNR for this, so. That was
The Arrowhead River been declared by the DNR as an impervious or impaired river. In other words, polluted.
I don't
That's
think
a
so.
No, it's not,
designation they put on.
no.
Okay. Thank you.
5-year timeline, how much that is passed already?
Actually, it's expired and the DNR is in the process of renewing the permit. There's a meeting tomorrow with them about these levels to extend the variance to allow for the construction and the switchover process of the treatment plant.
The variance is already expired.
Yes.
Yeah, but the bargain, they're going for the, actually, we look at that, but yeah. Which they said they were gonna get it, but again, but we get it. We just don't know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Minutes note that, Commissioner Belter is also present.
My name is Dave Purcell. I'm representing another sanitary district, which is the town of Hoyman in Fort Sippy. Our request is to cover the complete or partial costs associated with the purchase and installation of standby generators and automatic transfer switches at our 7 lift stations. The total cost is approximately $87,500. The district provides sewer service to 348 town of Hoyden residents and 20 town of Ossipee residents. The district is actually along the south shore of Lake Hogan. District is looking at these generators because in the event of a power outage, there would not be sufficient personnel and portable generators, which we currently have 2, to keep the system flowing without any potential system overflows. There are several reasons that have created this generator need. First is home construction, which consists of new homes, remodeled homes, and tear down, rebuild homes. Second is the increased number of permanent versus seasonal residences. What used to be 1 permanent versus 2 seasonal is now more like 2 permanent versus 1 seasonal. And third reason is homes are adding standby generators, which increases usage of the system during a power outage. In a power outage, the portable generators must be moved from lift station to lift station along the 7-mile system. There are also 9 grinder pump stations in the system that need to be attended to, but they have sufficient reserve, so we're not looking at putting electrical needs at the grinder pumps. The generators will be powered by natural gas. We've contacted Alliant Energy. They have reviewed our lift station locations and told us that there will be no charge to install the natural gas lines to it. I would like to notice that the district was never notified that we could probably apply for these monies, so that's the reason for the late request. I'd like to thank Marty Johnson, who's the town appointment chairman. That directed me to Mr. Egan, who then directed me to make our presentation at this meeting. So thank you for your time and consideration of this request.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Candy Hall. I live at 1370 Tammy Road in Oshkosh. I'm the executive director at Child Care Research and Referral. We serve Winnebago County as well as several other counties in northeast Wisconsin. So when we talk about childcare, I wanted to give you some numbers on what's happening in Winnebago County. So every year we do a survey and we updated our numbers. We started to update our numbers in February, which we typically do this time of year, with some comparisons to last year. What we know is that we've had 11 responses so far. We expect more, but again, that takes time. Last year at this time, there were 96 providers in Winnebago County. Currently, as of today, there are 92. That is a decrease in 105 slots in Winnebago County. We also know that the reporting programs could increase their slots by 246 if they were able to have the staff they need to run classrooms. So one of the reasons they can't enroll to capacity is that staff call out, right? So they hire all their staff, they can fill all their classrooms, but what happens when somebody calls out, somebody gets sick, somebody needs to take vacation? So even if they can staff to cover full enrollment, they don't. Because they don't have anybody for those days, which are almost daily that people are calling out or needing to be off. So when we talk about what happens when they call out and there is nobody, they do a few things. They can move children around. They can move staff around, none of which are good options for either the children or the staff. Or they call parents and say, I have to close this room for today, you have to go home. And that isn't good for our families who have to work to support their families. So we are aware that the substitute program, mentor program that we've created is not going to solve the childcare crisis in Winnebago County. That's gonna take a lot more than our little office in Kimberly, Wisconsin. That's gonna take communities, city officials, legislators, and businesses finding solutions that work. And we will continue in our office to advocate for that, both locally, at a state level, and in May, I'll be doing it at a national level in Washington. And we will continue to have those conversations. We started a sub-program, mentor program in Outagamie County in November with one sub. December, we added a second, and January, we added a third. Since November 1st to March 8th, we have covered 1,400 hours of classroom coverage over that time. That tells you the need. Our subs are scheduled to cover 8 maternity leaves, and they are scheduled out almost every day until the end of July, which is as long as we will allow them to schedule. Is this a Band-Aid for our bleeding small businesses in the community? This is what I hear a lot. Probably, absolutely it is. But it's what these small businesses, and that's what they are, they're small businesses. They are businesses started with the blood, sweat, and tears of people who wanted to do better for our community, wanted to give children a good start in life. So those that think that childcare is not necessarily a community issue, I wanted to give you a little bit of a story. Our office does referrals for families that are looking for childcare. And on one particular instance, a mother had called from Michigan. She was being promoted and transferred to Oshkosh. She wanted to know what her options were in Oshkosh, and she could not find childcare. She's the primary breadwinner of her family and could not find any options within a radius in which she was acceptable with. So she chose not to move to our community because she could not find the childcare at a job that she was able to promote with. So we talk a lot about buildings and centers, and those are needed as well. As I said, we had a decrease in childcare centers. But what about the ones who are already here? How are we going to support those? Because we can't just keep creating new spaces. We have to support the small businesses that are already in our community. And what we know from Calumet County, Outagamie County, and Wapaka, the best way that we at Child Care Resource and Referral can do that is by that substitute and mentor program that we talked about. So thank you for your time. I appreciate your open ears.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Nick Thorne speaking on behalf of the mobile traffic barricades for City of Nashua and City of Neenah. So thank you for your unanimous approval during the January 17th meeting for our request to purchase mobile traffic barricades for the City of Nashua and City of Neenah. Safety in our communities is paramount. I wanted to clarify a few things that have been brought up during the county board meeting on February 27th. A full trailer with these barricades have the ability to be set up in under 10 minutes, unlike dump trucks or construction trailers. Barricades are made and are used for their intended purpose, to protect large congregations of people during our community events. They have the ability to be reused if they're struck and are considered non-lethal for the driver of the striking vehicle. This is obviously very different when you consider someone striking a dump truck full of dirt. Last year, despite the fact of having a large piece of equipment blocking one of our roadways during one of our numerous events, one of the events attended by thousands of people, even those coming from your communities. The driver of the vehicle drove down the middle of the roadway and was eventually diverted. Thankfully, nobody was injured, and there wasn't any ill intent from the driver, only confusion. What's different about these barricades is that they are extremely maneuverable and can be placed in the smallest of areas to provide most secure protection for our communities. They also come with a lifetime warranty, and I assure you that they'll be used for decades to come in our community. Thank you again for your unanimous support during the January 17th meeting, and I appreciate you bringing this back up for reconsideration.
Remember, step right up if you want to speak.
Oh, I'm gonna let Chief Olson speak and then I'm happy because I'm gonna follow up.
Okay, I'll keep it short, everyone's time is valuable, so, this committee unanimously approved these barriers last month, I believe it was. And then last week it was, did not pass the county board level, some information was passed along was not accurate. I've sent an email to the board and, about that information as such, and then I also spoke to, two NEPA representatives, and they intend to reverse their enabled to be able to the next meeting, and then hopefully they'll come back to the county boards. But I'm here to ask for your support to talk to the county board members. So you voted no, to vote yes for this, because this is, like Chief Gordon said, these are very valuable barriers to the protection of our citizens. It isn't 1980 anymore, or 1990, or 2000. In today's day and age, people have ill intent, and we have to do the best we can do to keep people safe. And this money is very, very important for us to help keep our citizens safe. Oshkosh PD uses them at farmers market and other events. Green Bay PD uses them for soccer games. They're used at the Rose Bowl, where they actually had a person this year try to ram a crowd. These barriers stop that person and save countless lives. So back again, trying to get this grant passed. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think a number of you know me. Kay Horan, County Board Supervisor for District 5. I live at 324 9th Street in Neenah. I am here to say that I was one of those people who voted no against the barriers. It is my intention for both Neenah and Menasha to bring those resolutions back to the board. Neenah is providing and has in fact already set aside $250,000 to help purchase theirs. I have also found out that they have got the storage facilities to keep those. I want to say that it appears that there's been some miscommunication, and boy, for me, we need to have better communication. We need to have that communication for educating us all and understanding the best solutions for the principalities and the county. as individuals, we as individuals, as municipalities, and as the county tend to isolate ourselves from communicating with each other. And I'm discovering in the last 2 years that the best way for me to make informed decisions is by having that communication. Thank you.
Steve Bender, County Board Supervisor, District 13. I did listen to the Spirit Committee meeting when they said that the insurance wouldn't cover the dump trucks. And I don't know why you would need insurance to cover the dump truck, because if somebody runs into a parked vehicle, normally it's their fault. And I would believe they would get a citation for inattentive driving, and they would basically be responsible for the damage through their insurance. That officer there was the first one that actually gave me an actual explanation that they could put the barricades out in 20 minutes. And made it seem like it's probably feasible to go that route. Tell them, the guy that came up to me after the meeting jumped on me and told me I didn't know what I was talking about. And, he's reading me the riot act, treating me with no respect. He could have came up to me and said, can I give you some information on how we set these barricades up? It's a lot quicker, it takes less time. But no, he didn't do that. He just told me that I didn't know what I was talking about, and he was gonna email every one of the supervisors to basically let them know that I didn't have correct information. I think that's basically inadequate of anybody in a professional field to treat somebody like that. If he would have came up to me and said, Mr. Bender, the insurance doesn't cover that. We can get these barricades out in 20 minutes. They have a lifetime warranty. Can I mail you some information? Maybe you could change your mind and bring it back. I probably would have. But the way I was treated was not the way that I should have been treated. And I think he knows that. So that's all I have to say about that. And I will actually reconsider my vote when it comes back in April, but only because of that man there.
Thank you.
Bruce Abraham, 1911 Avondale Drive, Oshkosh, Algoma. And I'm representing the Oshkosh Pickleball Club. And our first applications to the county for ARPA funds was done on an individual basis. That changed in mid-July by request of County Executive Damo. And that request was to wait until Adam Reese did his court and his Winnebago County Community Park Master Plan, which he has now completed, and by the way, did a great job. And thanks for championing that, John. So what I'm here today is to voice my opinion, our opinion for the Oshkosh Pickleball Club for this commission to support the master plan allocation of funds, ARPA funds for that project. We certainly appreciate that. And there's a lot of data that has been presented either on the Oshkosh Pickleball Club's behalf, especially early on when we did our individual application, and now through the master plan that shows that there definitely is a need in this community based upon the demand and the future demand as it grows down forward. So I sincerely ask this commission, please consider approving the master plan allocation of ARPA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A number of you know my name, some of you don't not. My name is Bob Schmeichel. I'm the town chairman in the town of Munich, but also the chair of all the Wisconsin Towns Association unit chair towns here in Winnebago County. Wow, what a responsibility that you guys have. Hearing one after another say, please, please. I want to start saying right off the top, thank you for $145,000 for units, towns, cities, and municipalities. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. Couple of metaphors that I might want to share with you that is not as critical speaking. First one is for what my granddaughter asked me. Grandpa, this February, March? Maybe you've heard that. This February, March? Maybe not, but April, May. So what you guys did in February, March did a wonderful job for the towns. But in April, May, do a little bit more. And I'll give you another metaphor. You were very gracious to give us a bowl of ice cream that we really needed and appreciate to use. And then you put some chocolate syrup on top of that for a total of $145,000. Perfect. Thank you. But at the same time, my town units people have said, what happened to all the interest that has been gained through this whole process? The $2.2 million in interest. I don't know. Is it possible that we could maybe have that interest pass through to us? I don't know. Where that interest is right now, it would probably work out to about $7,500 per year from the inception. Or $15,000 at this point. I may not be correct on those numbers, but I'm sure I'm right in the ballpark. So I'm asking you to be respectful of what we possibly could get. Thank you very much for what you give us. I'm going back to that bowl of ice cream. You gave us a bowl of ice cream, the chocolate syrup. Is it possible you can put some sprinkles on the top and have us involved with the $2.2 million of interest? That's what we're asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Good afternoon, Jeff Schneider, 2059 Spencer Court, and Oshkosh. I am the president and CEO of the Oshkosh YMCA. I want to thank you for having us here today, and thank you for your consideration of our grant request. In watching previous mission meetings, I know that you're fully aware of the child care crisis in our county and our community. And we certainly have heard some of that already today from child care resource and referral. The YMCA's mission is to meet community needs, and that's what we do. Our grant is based on meeting that community need. We know we can't fully solve the child care crisis, but we believe we can do something to help families in our community. We are currently the largest provider of child care in the community, caring for over, I always need to remember to add EWI care. We are up to about 275 kids in full-time childcare. We know that the biggest need and the biggest backlog for kids and the hardest care to find is the 0 to 2 age of childcare. We proposed in our grant a $3.8 million expansion of the 20th Avenue Child Care to help expand child care. Since that, and since taking over UW Oshkosh, we've been focusing on that 0 to 2 age care. So we've started to adapt what we do to meet the community need. I believe based on some information I received, you may have some questions as to why we maybe have changed our project a little bit. And also I believe word has gotten out that we're looking at another child care in Amro. And as to why we decided to fill on that, and I can address that in a little bit. With the UW Oshkosh site, again, meeting community needs, the YMCA stepped in the very day that UW Oshkosh announced they were closing child care. Within 15 minutes of getting a call, we contacted the UW. We said, we can't allow this to happen. Child care is critical for the infrastructure of our community. This can't happen. What can we do? We hammered out a deal. We stepped in. The child care had 32 children, I believe. Well, I'm looking at it, I brought some shooters in. 32 children when we took over. Today, there are just shy of 8 kids. We've always got kids coming in. They are doing changes into that child care. Again, primarily meeting that 0 to 2 age group. We were able to do that quickly. But even with that, we still feel it's important to install a child care. The expansion that you see, or what was written in that was a $3.8 million expansion. It was for between 40 and 50 kids, depending on age group, where the kids fit. We've had the architects look at the building, and we said, hey, what can we do to focus on the 0 to 2? That seems to be the biggest key. And can we make the building and the project a little more adaptable as these kids age and as the needs of the community change? And they came through with an option 2 for us. And just yesterday, we received the price on that. That is 2 points. These are 2026 standards. That will. So the project, that piece of the project, when you go to 0 to 2, your ratio is different. So it does impact the number of kids that we can serve. So we go, we'll be between that 32 to 35 kids in the 0 to 2 range. But during this whole process started in 2022, as stated in our of planning for expansion in childcare. We did an in-house project during this process. We spent about $600,000 rearranging some rooms at 20th Avenue, and we were able to add 12 children into a new classroom. So again, incrementally meeting the needs of the community. We're excited about the opportunity to expand childcare. It is our #1 priority. I think you may have heard, some of you may have heard, we are looking at other needs within our facilities and possible expansions, both at 20th Avenue and at our tennis center. But childcare is #1 on the list. So that will not change. The scope of the project, what it looks like, may change a little bit. And certainly what we proposed the first time, the biggest changes between the two are primarily the original project called for significant dollars in there to move the playground so that we could expand the building. There were dollars because of the disruption we have to have for current kids in the child. We're able to eliminate all of those things, get the cost down, be more fiscally responsible, have a smaller expansion by utilizing some of our interior space in the village. And so that's where we're at. I think, would you like me to just address Amro right away? Because I know it was one of the questions. We did, for several months, take a good long look at the childcare. And we were excited. We were excited about the prospect of expanding childcare out. It was another opportunity for us to meet the community. Again, there's a lot of things that went into looking at that facility, the need, staffing issues, the condition of the facility itself. And at the end of the day, it is just not really fiscally viable situation for us to step in. I wish it were. But we're not certain of the need in Amro, the full need. Right now, that center is around 26 kids, with 9 of them part-time. That is not a financially viable model for a child care, a child care in that sense. So unfortunately, to be fair to the current owners of that child care, not dragging on it further, we had to inform them that right now, we got to pull back. We need to focus on the expansion. We do serve AMO families at the 20th Avenue Child Care. There are 6 AMO families. And we did a little research on our own, and it depends on whose lead foot is on the gas, but it's 10 to 12 minutes between those 2 child care, 20th Avenue and child care. And when we discussed with the AMO child care, where do all your parents work? It was Oshkosh. So we felt it was just much more viable for us to drop out of that and focus on 20th Avenue. Now, there are some bills before Congress, Rebuild Rural America bill. If that passes, there are dollars in that bill to help rural child care. We would take another one. I think there was some support for that. Things aren't going real well in Congress these days, so I'm not certain that that'll pass anytime soon. But
if that's where we're at. So I hope that answers, most of your questions. I appreciate the time you give us, and I just ask that you, support us in our efforts, to expand childcare and continue to at least alleviate the critical need for some families. Thank you.
I have a question, speaking from the arm row.
Yep. And I knew,
My question is, you said like when you first took over one of them, you only had like 20-some, there's 20-some in that daycare there now, but they don't have staff. So that's why there's only that many in there. But now if you take them away, being on the school board also, you're also taking them away because more than likely they'll keep right on going to the Oshkosh area or whatever. They're not gonna be staying in that area for school. And that hurts that part of the school district. So, you know, are you really out to help the district or you're out just to help yourselves?
well, I would love to be able to help the Alamo School District, and Jay and I, the superintendent of the school district, had a conversation. And again, it has to be a fiscally responsible move for us. We're using donors' dollars to be able to do these types of things and take these over. I don't know, and to be perfectly honest with you, and I don't want to, publicly, I don't know what the owners of that childcare is. But it is not necessarily doing well financially right now. Okay, staffing is an issue that factored into our decision was, can we get staff now? And we're not confident that we can do that. But I do have to say, in my conversation with Jay, probably the final nail of the whole deal was the Alamo School District's decision to go to a referendum for full-time 4K. Full-time 4K is a childcare code. And I don't want to debate with the school districts, because we have a great partnership with the Oshkosh District. But 4-year-old childcare is where childcare is, because the ratios are greater. So that's where financially you do a little better, which helps support the 0 to 2 range, which is again where that need is, but the ratios are smaller. So for most small childcares, it's difficult to support those kids if you don't have the 4 buildings. So with some of that hanging in the air, that factored into our decision. We haven't completely written Alamo off. However, we're just not quite ready to make that step. And to be fair to the owners of that childcare, we need it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Raise your hand.
Yep, thank you, Jeff, for being here. Somebody that yesterday just had to expend 4 resources to get childcare. I know personally, how tough this is. And somebody that's also tried to get in the YMCA childcare program, and at the time it was a 2-year waiting period. What is the current waiting period to get in the childcare facility there?
You know, it probably, can I cheat with my staff? It probably depends on the age. I know we have a little over 200 kids on wait list right now. It probably depends on the age, but you know where we're at.
What happens is we give priority to families that are in the center, so when we give someone a time frame, it can change. If you're in the center and you are having a baby, then you guarantee you get a spot. So when you get put on a waiting list, we try not to even give a range because we don't necessarily know. It really depends on the age of the kid. The time of the year.
Got it.
It's hard. Wait lists in childcares, there's a number of reasons for waiting lists. A childcare may not be full, but says they're full because of staffing. A childcare may not be up to their license capacity of what the building can hold, but puts their license, because you pay on the license per child, at a lower number and then says they're full. So there's a lot of factors. It's a very complicated issue with how childcare works. In the ratios of kids. And it's sad that we have this many kids on wait lists and that it impacts parents. The day UW Oshkosh announced that they're closing, what tipped us off of it were phone calls starting immediately to the YMCA with crying eyes. And They didn't know what they were gonna do. It's the same story in church. I'm not gonna be able to work. The childcare staff came in and said, hey, you know, what I told you, we need to do some things and stuff, when you start here. But, it's a very emotional, difficult issue for parents. And I wish I had a magic bullet to solve it for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids that wait list. But I think it's, you know, it's a group effort. The YMCA has a sign. The YMCA does support childcare resource referral and their request. I think the substitute mentoring program will help childcare tremendously.
Any other questions?
Do you have an estimation on how long it would take to raise that money and then how long from break ground to finish?
So right now, we are scheduled to begin financial feasibility study early July. And the child care may or may not be a part of that study. It may be a completely separate, like, we're just doing it. Okay. I'm 99% sure we're just doing it. The rest of our project will be mostly focused on that financial feasibility study. But that study is when we sit down with the donors and say, hey, this is what we're doing. So we'll start that process in July. We will start making asks by the end of this year. We have talked to architects and to the contractor that is helping us work through costs right now, and we can build, we can get the child care done and built before the next 26. Probably 625. The beauty of option two that we have, and again, we have not taken option one on the table. The beauty of option two is we can do the bulk of the construction without disrupting. And that's critical. Option one requires us to try and move kids. The state's not always real flexible with us on putting kids in rooms that aren't made for childcare. But the beauty of option two is we can do it, get it done fast with the least distraction. So we're prepared to move forward.
Tom, I just have one more comment. It just, sometimes we have a tendency to say, oh, this is an Oshkosh, or this is an Amro, whatever, this is a thing, and I hope you continue to look at that Amro childcare facility and work towards that. My point is that on the east side of Oshkosh, it takes 20 minutes to get to the 20th Street Y. You can make it, like you said, from Amro to the 20th Street Y in 10 minutes. And so I just want to make that point. This is not an Oshkosh, Winnebago, Amro thing. It's, it's for our entire community.
Anyone else here? Okay, Supervisor Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. May I first take a moment to thank the commission and especially Beth Oswald in the hard work she did in fielding the applications, going through everything, and working on the citizen committee. The work that you do at the commission and that Beth did is not unnoticed or unrecognized or unappreciated. So thank you very much. And in going through the packet for today, unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, excuse me, the reality is coming in very hard now when you look at especially pages 8 through 11. The buckets are rapidly being allocated, and the funds are coming to a close. And so it is now time to make even possibly more difficult decisions, and maybe not so much money in this particular ask, because there are others, as we heard today. What I have always been afraid of is, as these go down, there's going to be hands raised saying, wait a minute, we're here too. And here's the unfortunate part that we're now dealing with. I definitely would like to see the traffic barriers come back forward and be voted on. And so I thank you for that on this agenda. On the Oshkosh ask for the $500,000, I was very grateful for Supervisor Buck's comments. That actually helped me quite a bit, because I would personally like to see something come up to the Neenah YMCA that helps Neenah, Menasha, and Fox Crossing. That's my area.
in your discussion today on the resolution 333 that came back on the $350,000 ask, I would really like to hear clarification if it's possible at the discussion today, because it's my understanding from previous meetings that 350K is more for administration in an office rather than going directly to children or to teachers or people that would be tending to the children. If you could please clarify that in the discussion. Very grateful to see the $300,000 ask in the resolution for the space needs study. I think that would be a very important thing to advance forward, both at this commission and at the county board. It's something that I think really needs to be done. And then lastly, on the 3.9 million of the spirit funds to for the outdoor recreation of Winnebago County. Adam Breeze made a wonderful presentation yesterday, and to be perfectly honest, if I could say yes to all of that, I would. The caution is 3.9 is a huge ask, and these buckets are running dry. And so it might be that something doesn't get funded in that 3.9. So I would like to hear continual discussion on that. With that, again, thank you very much to the commission and the hard work that Beth did. Not unrecognized, not unappreciated. Thank you. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Supervisor Schellinger?
Thank you, Kobe Skellinger, 315 Sunnybrook Drive in Oshkosh. So I don't want to belabor the point here. I think that this childcare thing is one of the bigger needs in our community that ARPA funds would be able to put a dent in. I think first, I'll question if $850,000 is the right amount, or if there is much more. It looks like there's maybe some more discussion coming about that. But I just can't stress enough the number of people, my peers, who struggle with these questions. We, as I shared at the board meeting on Tuesday, we moved my in-laws up to Oshkosh to help provide childcare. My wife took a job working a PM shift, and I worked early in the mornings so that we could make things manage before our kid was school age, and those kind of scheduled jungle gyms are becoming more and more prevalent because of the child care shortages. I really value the work that the child care resource and referral program is suggesting. My recommendation to send this back to this commission was to put some defined parameters around what that impact was gonna be, so that we can tell the story of what this $350,000 is actually going to. What are the concrete deliverables that this would go to? And of course, much of the previous ARPA recommendations have been for space, things that are pretty easily quantifiable. This operational expense, though, does seem to fit into a much larger infrastructure of the community. But I just need to understand what does success look like, and what would not be living up to that success. And then I'll switch gears a moment, and I want to challenge the commissioners to bring this commission in line with the standard practices that the other committees, commissions, and boards of Winnebago County have. I'm referring to the county board a few meetings ago referred to capital items from the capital improvement plan to the aviation committee with the intention of having those projects reviewed by the ARPA commission. The aviation committee did vote to refer them to the ARPA commission, and they haven't been able to appear on an agenda. This doesn't comport with the standard practices that any of the other committees, commissions, or boards have. And I would just challenge the commissioners to stand up and bring the commission in line with the way that the county operates. Thank you.
Thank you. The only thing I can say about that on my part, I haven't seen anything come from the aviation committee to put on the agenda. There's someone else's hand up there that I,
Mhm.
Barb Tanvisto.
Barb?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I am hoping you can hear me. Thank you. I'm the executive director of First Five Fox Valley, and I'm not able to be there in person today, but I'm online throughout the meeting to answer any questions when our application comes up, the one that was submitted last July. I'd like to make a note that our requested amount of the grant has been reduced from 300,000 to 275 because the original start date was for January. So now starting later, halfway through the year, it would reduce that amount that we would be needing. So First Five Fox Valley, along with Child Care Resource Referral, has over the past 8.5 months submitted applications, provided additional documentation, answered questions, reworked pro forma budgets, talked to Citizens Board for the funds, met with the Director of Human Services to examine if we're duplicating our work. And here we are again, we're ready to answer questions and I'm wondering why proposals that have not gone through this same rigorous interview process are now still being added to the funding agenda. That kind of befuddles me a little bit. The reality is, though, that the COVID-19 pandemic took a toll on families, economic, workforce, health concerns, education, childcare arrangements, constantly required parents to adapt quickly when caring for their family's needs. And while everyone was dealing with the stress and mental health issues, our youngest children increased the level of developmental concerns that we're seeing now, and we're seeing the effects now. Both CCR&R and First Five worked hard during that period of time between 2021 and now. We stretched our resources very thin as nonprofits. I saw firsthand how CCR&R loaded cleaning materials and diapers and other important items and delivered them to the doors of childcare providers who would have shut down. First Five saw a growing number of alarming developmental concerns, and it raised enormous questions about what's going to happen to this population in the future. And we're seeing it now. As an example, a childcare program in Winnebago County participates in our Help Me Grow program offered by First Five. The center director called for help. A child was going to be kicked out of that program because of challenging behavior in a 4-year-old classroom. The child screening was normal. But when we did a social emotional test, that score was ballpark alarming. That is when we realized our Help Me Grow navigators talked with the parents and the teacher and together made a plan. We called Candy's office and said, hey, can you have your EC specialist get out there and observe that classroom? It was a new teacher fresh out of college who needs the mentoring that's now being offered to that program. It changed the flow of the classroom, rearranged the schedule, and provided guidance on how to deal with classroom control. We worked as First Five and Help Me Grow with the parents, getting them into an education class with Parent Connection, another collaborator, to learn how to set boundaries at home. We work together to intervene so this child won't need to have special education support in Oshkosh School District when he enters kindergarten in the next 2 years. We are local, we are collaborative, and that child was born in 2022 at the beginning of a pandemic, and we're seeing the effects of it now. We had a call last week from a mother who said her 3-year-old was not speaking and talking. When she wanted to get help a year ago, her husband and mother-in-law said, nah, it'll be okay. She'll grow into it. A year later, still no language. That mother called concerned. We were able to get the support she needed. That child is aging out of birth to 3, not old enough for the school district. Help Me Grow was the safety net. that helped her find the referrals, the resources, get her back to the pediatrician to say, we need this child tested in a more detailed way. This is a family who would have fallen through the cracks if not for the safety net that Help Me Gross provides. This little one was born in 2021. We are just now seeing the effects of COVID, and we're dealing with families that their children were born during that period of time when they weren't able to connect with grandparents for a year. They couldn't learn language because people were wearing masks. They couldn't find childcare. It was very difficult. It's easy to think that COVID impact money is best used to buy an airboat or, traffic barriers, and maybe invest in a building that might be an incubator for an idea with unknown outcomes. But really investing in the work that CCR&R and First Five is doing has proven successful. It grows outcomes. And now we will see the hardest work of our time. We have to keep the childcare providers in a field instead of leaving because they're dealing with these challenging behaviors of children. Our work as a local community-based organization starts now, not 2 years ago, not 2 years in the future, because now is when we are seeing the effects of the people living in Winnebago County and the effects and the hardship that it was on these young children. I was a Sunday school teacher for a lot of years. There was a song we would sing and it said, the church is not a building where people go to pray. The church is not a business, a committee, or a board. It's not a corporation for the business of the Lord. The church is the people living out their lives. So be careful of falling for a new shiny project that might catch your eye as you have this final parts of money to think about. Week after week, you've seen my face here standing, trying to tell you it's about the people. It's about the people who are saying they need your help. Our work is just now beginning to support the people of the communities, and it's getting harder and harder with the resources that this funding could really provide. I ask for your support, and I'll stand for any questions when you get to our resolution a little bit later in your meeting. But thank you for the time to speak.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the commission today? Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Brett Salshetter. I'm the president and CEO at the Wines of the Fox Cities. I see that I'm on the agenda. Is this the time to talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I brought along some information for the committee here, but I want to appreciate your time and just like everybody echo, yes, please do. Yeah, just want to echo everyone's comments about our appreciation and the job that you have to do here. Just a little bit of why I'm here with regards to this. The Wine of the Fox Cities, we serve over 60,000 individuals each year through our 6 membership facilities, with Neenah Menasha serving over 11,500 members in the northern part of Winnebago County. We've been taking a hard look over this past year, trying to understand what the community needs have been through our strategic planning process. And as no shock to anybody here, one of the biggest areas that we're hearing is around childcare, workforce development, mental health, the erosion of positive youth behaviors, family supports, not keeping up and keeping pace to help support our young people. And so our strategic plan, which is part of the packet you have there, is in effect to help to address those over the next 7 years. Most specifically, our organization has been taking a look at its physical assets to say how well are they positioned not only to serve the needs of the community today, but for the needs of the future. And we commissioned a real estate development and asset optimization study. Most specifically is a snippet of that study in your packets related to our Neenah Menasha facility. The results of that study shows that, we are well positioned to serve in the community of not only Neenah Menasha and Fox Crossings, et cetera, but the building is antiquated and overbuilt. And there is opportunity for redevelopment of that site, significant redevelopment of that site that could be mixed use with other public and private partners. And that is the stage that we are at today, but part of our plans related to that reinvestment and reimagination of that facility is centered around some of the aspects that we talked today here. How can we continue to provide not only high quality, but further access for childcare? But more importantly, how do we provide a continuum of care to address these issues around physical and mental well-being for all residents, especially other growing demographics like seniors, and be that positive, safe place for youth. But other opportunities around housing, other social services, and partnerships with agencies is what we're actively seeking as a part of this. But a consideration of funding and partnership in this project would help move a long way in helping to realize that vision as far as that goes. There are many collaborative partnerships between government and YMCA's that we can point to that have been successful in helping to solve community-wide issues. And so we share some of those examples of what a downtown urban type of development might look like in a mixed-use setting with a YMCA. And so I know that I want to be respectful of your time, so I'll just pause there to see what other questions you have, but wanted to introduce what our plans are and what our future goals and achievements are looking to set up to be.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank you for your patience with me in my office for this. Just to be forthcoming with the ARPA Commission here is the reason this got held up is because we've been working to see if there is a collaboration that we could do with our office space that we have in Neenah. And one of the things wasn't ready really for a conversation on that yet, because I think the space needs study is going to help us determine exactly what we need up there. What are the needs for services that we have? So I do appreciate your patience on that. I felt it important that this still gets to the commission because you are moving forward, whether with or without us. And I didn't want you to miss that opportunity. And then I appreciate that you're looking for this, and I think it's a great need in the Neenah community, which helps Menasha as well. I mean, it's a very a tale of two cities there. So I just wanted to emphasize how grateful I am with how you've been through this entire process.
No, we appreciate the time, and certainly, as you've heard from others, we're better together, right? So where there's opportunities to share in resources and help to have a greater impact for those that we serve, so.
And I do look forward to continuing those conversations, and hopefully we can get something worked out.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for the board? Commissioner? Yeah, we'll move right along. Cassie has one correction on the minutes that she wants to tell us.
Actually, there's two that I noticed. Well, it was pointed out. So number 3, it should be approval of February 15th, 2024 meeting minutes. So it should be in the title, and then of course the line below. And then on the very back, the next meeting date is March 6th, not February 15th.
I'll move approval with those amendments.
Second.
Motion made second. The approval of the minutes as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. Business items. Update amount resources available in each spirit fund category.
All right, thank you, Chair. We do have an agenda item report here, kind of went over staff, figure out where the process are, what has passed already, what has not passed, and we kind of split it up, between, both categories. The agenda, item report that we have in this, there's a couple thoughts and discussions, that, we should start thinking about. And I'm just gonna read those. As it relates to the government identified community projects, all projects we received during the period last summer will have been disposed of after this meeting. So when the commission initially passed the planning document May of 2023, we did have $1 million in there for veteran housing. Do we still want to consider some of that after we figure out where the remaining balance is? And we're gonna have to make a decision eventually on the interest. But I guess I want to hand this over to staff a little bit to give us the update on where we are as far as our funding goes. I'm wondering if I jump ahead there. Yeah, no. So Ethan, do you have the document on what we have passed so far?
Yes. Do you want to, what is your, you want to share it?
Yes, please.
That's Cassie's job.
Okay. Thanks, Cassie.
Yeah.
It'd take me just a minute to get in there, because Paul had updated some errors that we found out, so bear with me.
Is one of them the 7,500?
Yes,
And then I'm just adding up to, because my numbers don't match that.
The other one was the for roll. Third line.
Of the first page. Oh, I was,
The ROL, yeah.
oh, I was just looking at the government identified numbers and projects.
But you're on this one.
Oh, okay, I gotta.
Just switch the HDMI cord. Switch this cord to your.
Oh, I know.
Oh, you can't do that. We'll just switch your computers now.
Yeah, I will, give me a second.
You won't be. Can't show it because I can't do.
I don't know if this is gonna be time to say this, but, we have a couple minutes here, I'm assuming, right, Cassie?
Yeah, you have a.
I guess I just want to kind of set the table here for what we're gonna be doing and I'm gonna go to, the PPP loans that have been given out by the federal government, and we're finally starting to see that, some of that money being clawed back. Some of these businesses might not have been scrupulous. Right here in Northeast Wisconsin, the construction industry is not affected by PPP a whole lot, but yet a lot of these businesses, got millions and millions and millions of dollars of our taxpayer money. And meanwhile, they just went into the pockets of the business owners. I know business owners that they don't have any employees, yet they're getting PPP money for $2, $3, $4, or $5 million. I guess my point to this is that whatever we do on this commission, the resolutions that pass that go to the county board, there needs to be language in there. I do not want to personally be part of something in 20 years from now that this county board, this commission gave out free money to our community without any strings attached to it. I want to make sure that the money that we allocate here is accounted for. We know when we do traffic barriers, things like that, that's where that money is going to be accounted for. A lot of this stuff is wonderful stuff I support, of course, but making sure that that goes to the right space. So I hope that with corporate counsel, the county executive's office, that this stuff is written, so all this money is accounted for. So I want to make sure that that's on the record.
Oh, I've got it up now, yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about Ethan or?
This is Paul's document. I guess what are the questions? I mean, what's your intent?
My intent is to like to let everybody know what has been allocated already and what is the pot left. What are some of the discussions we've had around. And we'll take do you mind taking
Go ahead and take the lead on it.
the administration 51st?
Take the lead on it. Go ahead.
All right.
No, I don't.
County government projects, which is basically the executive's office, is the first page. Which you have that, and that's correct in the pamphlet. There's 16.695 million in there. 3.784600 was approved. That leaves 12.9 million left. Only 2.6 of that has been spent of the 3.7 to date. So that is the top portion of the 50%. Any questions on that portion? All right, Cassie, can we, okay. So the second portion is listing all of the projects that have been planned, allocation, board approved, and then spent. So 16.6 again was the 50%. The amount the ARPA commission basically allocated was 15.2. As we know, 2 of them failed in the February meeting at the board for the barriers. 1 got sent back to the ARPA commission, which is on, I believe all of them are on the agenda for today. I'll go back up to the photos. So the board has approved 14.4, so that leaves 2.6. Last night they did approve one for 387,000, I think. So that leaves 2.2 million left for this commission.
The only thing I'll point out is the agenda item report, provided some math on what's on the agenda. There's $1.6 million on the agenda. Because of the error in the spreadsheet, the math on the page 8, the math where it says 611,000 would remain, assuming all resolutions pass, 611. That's actually 611 less. 67,000. So there's roughly 550, assuming everything passes, which includes the roundabouts. And what's on the agenda today, there's about 550 left. That 550 does not include traffic barriers.
Yes, sir. So you're saying 500, excuse me, 1,000 would be left?
550,000, assuming every resolution passes on the agenda today.
Yes.
And assuming failure of traffic barriers. So that does not consider whether that passes or fails. So you have 550 to spend on traffic barriers and anything else not on the agenda.
Okay, so then the only available balance to us would be a portion of the interest that is outstanding, which we have yet to discuss. But that number is approximately $1 million, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
1.1, well, 50%.
Well, if it's split it,
Yeah.
We haven't decided what we're gonna do with that yet.
I was asked to split it at the one meeting, so I split it at the one meeting last time.
Oh, man.
Well, it is because I have to take when the projects were actually paid versus.
I'm a little unclear, if I might go back, Ethan. You're saying if we approve everything on the agenda and not talking about the barriers.
Correct.
We only have 550,000 left.
Correct.
If the barriers were reconsidered and approved by the board, where does that put us?
80,000.
80,000.
187 plus 300, 487 minus 558. 75, a little less than that.
75,000.
60 to 70, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and right. I guess, to be clear, and I'm okay with that. It was the direction of this commission that they wanted to get through that 50%, by March. And I think I understand there's been some criticisms and I've heard it, but I think we've done a fair job, on a lot of that. So for me, it's okay how we get there. I was trying to follow the lead and the will of this commission and also, some of the will of the county board, to get through that. And I think and this again is assuming that the 500,000 for the Oshkosh YMCA and the 500,000 for NINA on 300 some thousand for child care resource referral and the 275 now, for first 5. And all those other things, if those all pass and get through the boards, I think, we would have roughly 80. And I would look at that as a good thing because we did what we set out to do.
Do we need a motion to, ask the, county board to reconsider?
Board level. Yeah, it'll be done on the county board and, we've got one or two that's already gonna put in for that, so. We can just, if we want to, this, when it comes to that point, then we'll go ahead and we all still are in favor of it, that we can do, but otherwise we don't need to spend a lot of time with that, that'd be done on county board.
Thank you.
Well, that's gonna be my point. We arbitrarily, we just allocated these numbers, really picked them out of the air. It's not, they're approved by the board, they're what we've been operating out of, but it doesn't have to be this way. If the board wants to reconsider anything out of the money that's left of that 16.69, then they can certainly do that. And I agree with John, we did a good job looking through 40 or 50 requests for how to spend this money, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
As far as the interest goes, will this board determine where the interest goes, or does that have to go back to the county board to decide where the interest?
We go ahead and make a recommendation to the board. Vice Chairman Torrey.
Thank you. I think there's a resolution that we approved quite some time ago, and I don't recall the number, that indicates that the interest earned on these ARPA funds at that time will be at the discretion of the commission. So I think that's already there.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I thought any money had to go back to the board. Supervisor Cox.
We might want to find that.
I don't recall that.
If you read the ARPA rules, the original rules, the interest stays with the money that's spent with the ARPA money. Okay, we haven't changed those rules because we've now become a spirit fund, which, reread the rules, I think you can find it. The interest stays with the ARPA money.
So if it stays with the ARPA money, does that say we can never spend it?
No, it will extend your spending beyond what dollars we put into the fund originally, okay? It'll extend it that much more. But it's up to the commission. It would seem you'd have to find the right projects.
Supervisor Border.
That point should probably be clarified and brought to the board's attention, either with the resolution that says it or whatever has to happen, because there's some talk in the county board. If it's just there, nobody can spend it. Of the ARPA.
County executive.
Just going off of, some of the conversations I think the county board has had, and I guess some of the, and please correct me if I'm wrong on what I've been hearing, but it seems like the county board, is concerned of our own fiscal responsibilities. And would like, from what I've heard, maybe this is just my perception, would rather that money go toward that top 50%. I don't know if they mean by split. And I think that's something that we have to consider. Are we gonna split this in half? Are we gonna go all the way to the bottom? Are we gonna go all the way up to the top? And my interpretation for what I've been hearing, some of the concerns of the county board is the body as a whole would rather see that the entirety of that interest move to the top. And I don't know if my perceptions are correct on that, and I would look to the board members on this commission to, I guess, give me your input on that.
Vice Chairman Parry.
I have the same impression. Now, if I'm correct and remembering the resolution correctly, it's at the discretion of the committee. I mean, we don't have to use the money to support some request. I think it's open for discussion and direction from the committee. And you're quite, I keep hearing it all the time at board meetings that, you know, we need to start considering the huge amount of capital projects that are pending before the county board. And hopefully utilizing the funds correctly to keep our property taxes at a reasonable level. That's what I'm hearing. I would agree with you.
How can I read this? Can I read this? How can I understand it any better? Supervisor Cox, would you like to do? Recovery funds may be deposited into an interest-bearing accounts with the earned interest allowed for general county use. Now, if you want to put it with the project, the projects as we just went through, or do we want to move it to county use, county project? Yeah.
We only have $80,000 left. We have county needs certainly long-term for this interest earnings that I helped get started back a year and a half ago. I'm happy to take everything left, move it back up to the board level and have our commission run out and the terms run out in April. Well, I mean, we don't have a lot left to discuss. We've had rules that everybody applied to with deadlines. And we've vetted all of those, and certainly they're always ongoing. These five that will always have to be approved by the county board anyway. So I don't, we can do it either way, but we could also just push it back up to the county board and let you guys do what you will with it. Because you're gonna do a little bit anyway. Just told you.
What does commission think? Just said.
I would agree with that sentiment. I'm good with that. It's, you know, we set out to do our work. We're just about to the end of it. Let's finish the stuff and move along.
If we have 12 of 13 or 15 of us with 2 or 3 hours of a meeting to talk about $80,000.
Yeah.
That's not.
Amen. Thank you.
Work this.
Well, you may be like, oh, but that don't mean this.
Yeah.
Discussion. Yes, right, you're correct.
Yes.
Do we have something, John?
Yeah, I just, you know what? Just take a second to really thank and appreciate the three of you. It wasn't easy for me to ask you or convince you, to sit on this commission. It's been a hard job. It's always hard. When you have to decide and you have to pick winners and losers. And you weren't elected to this role, you were asked by me, to get on here. And I know some of the criticism has been, heard. Some I agree with, a lot I don't. And I think that we created a pretty good process to figure out what some of the needs of the communities were. I understand, it's hard, you can't always, well, if Bob's still here, you can't always give people their sprinkles. And sometimes you have to, choose some of those things, and I know I put you in a peculiar position, and I just really appreciate, all three of you saying yes, to my request. And, you know, deciding on what they do, and I kind of agree. I think, I would appreciate if the board took a look at this commission, going forward. If we figure out how this is gonna be and get the rest of this money allocated to move it up to that top 50%, and maybe take a look at what this commission is going forward. And I would be obviously open to however the board wants to do that. And of course, you know, it's tricky because it's hard to know what a finish line is, because anybody can reconsider some of the traffic barriers if you would. And we don't know what has been allocated until we pass the county board. So whatever the interest is, whatever may be left over, I would be okay for going up to the county board. Of course, I would always look for somewhere else. I think veteran housing is a need. That's why I kind of put it in there in the beginning. We'll look and see what we can do from that end. But I agree with it and I just wanted to thank you especially and also with the board members is I think we have had a fair process. I think you have done a good job of figuring out what the needs are out there. I think you have listened to quite a few. And I know some of the struggles in the townships. There's lots of bills out there. But there's a lot more opportunities out there from the federal government as well. I think we as a county have to do the best we can to help them find some of those funding opportunities. And Tom, I really have appreciated working with you through this process as well.
We're not done yet, so.
I know.
So, Mr. Chair, so in the purpose for future agenda items, what's the consensus of the commission for future agenda items on interest and wrapping up the bottom category, I guess? I just want somebody to summarize it, so when we create the agenda, we can create the right documents. If it's a conversation with corp counsel we have to have on previous resolutions, somebody just summarize what the commission's consensus was.
That would certainly be my preference, yes.
So you want a resolution discussing, you want an item discussing the interest, whether there's something in the enabling resolution that prohibits it, maybe redoing that, and you want to move the remaining pending board action on barriers and today to county government projects.
Well, I'm not referring to the barriers. I'm just referring to the next meeting.
Yeah, I guess my point was pending board action on what's pending, you want to move the rest up after this last round.
Well, that should be part of the discussion.
Yeah.
at the next meeting.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Because we're getting down, we ain't that much left, depends what action the board takes at the upcoming meeting, but, we need to get it to a point where we have, definitive numbers and direction based on prior resolutions, et cetera, to move forward in the next step. And of course, the next step is probably gonna be in May, and that would be, subject to change of the board, commission,
Board, yeah.
yeah.
I
So
will,
it's kind of a wrap up, the last wrap up meeting, I guess.
I will say, we just quickly reviewed, and back in September of 22, you raised this issue when Mike Collard was attending these meetings. And according to the minutes, it was gonna be looked into, but once we get done today, we can certainly look at the actual resolutions and go from there.
Supervisor Cox.
When you get to a point of reconsideration, we planning on reconsidering any of these particular projects in the next term or in this term, in other words, this unadjourned or adjourned session that we're in currently, or are we waiting until beyond that? I think there's only a length of time that we can. Is that right, Mary Ann?
I'm sorry.
Is there only a short length of time that we're allowed to reconsider any of these?
Well,
projects?
you meaning the county board, or you're talking about this
Talking
commission?
About the board. Talking about the board.
So
All
with
of
the
that.
board, as you know, the rules say that if there is a resolution that gets voted down, then it can be reconsidered at the next business meeting. That's in your rules. And it can only be brought forward by one of the people on the prevailing side. So let's say it got voted down. One of the people who voted it down would have to come back at the next business meeting and say, I want it reconsidered. So now you have a situation where you have,
Stay within the term. In other words, you couldn't move it to the next term.
no, because we have a meeting on March, what is it, 19th? March 19th, and then you've got the election on the 2nd. Then you've got organizational on the 16th.
Right.
And then business on the 23rd.
We stop our term when? our term stops at the point of election, just before election.
Well, it's when you're sworn, it's when the new people are sworn in. And my understanding is they're gonna be sworn in on the 16th, or maybe they could be sworn in before, I don't.
That's when they're usually sworn in. I would say the 16th.
Yeah.
John?
I mean, it all depends on what the motion to adjourn at that last board meeting is. Want to be.
Or if you want to sign up another group and have a special meeting or whatever, however you want to do that. As you remember, we did that with the NIG, the neighborhood investment grant, as putting together a board from the past group and bringing them out on a special session to pass that. Now, why I'm asking this is because if we don't get to these in the next business section, it's gonna slip into the next term. We don't really want to go that route to try to bring these things back.
So the deadline for the next business session, which, when is March 19th, you said, right? Is the meeting. Is the meeting, so you need to get it in by next Monday, March 11th.
And that has to go on the agenda.
Can we just wrap it up today?
Yeah.
Not at this rate, we're not.
Yep. Ethan, what'd you say? If the traffic barrier is excluded, we'd have $80-some thousand to spend or something?
Yes, 60 to 80. What I heard the commission say is you want to finish the bottom category, what we call bottom category, the community government community projects, this term. It is correct that next term, then there'll most likely will be the resolution to discuss interest and then move whatever the remaining is up to county government projects. Then you all know the rest is spending it on government projects. Does that make sense? Is it?
No, I asked you about how much we're gonna
Yeah,
have.
there's 60 left.
60 left. So my point would be that what Tim had said, we could allocate 60 to, the extra 60 to parks or something like that today and then be done, right?
You could request that.
John?
And that's the thing, it might be 60, it might be more, there's no guarantees any of these are gonna pass to the county board.
Right.
So I think with the direction what I'm hearing, because I wanna make sure it's clear, is the resolution would be that whatever is not passed by the county board, that we are going to look at the rest of these that were in that category today, and we're gonna make a decision on them and send it to the board. Whatever falls back, the resolution could be like, whatever's left and whatever falls back and interest can all be pushed to that top 50%, and that would be a resolution for the next ARPA commission, whatever that looks like, to consider. Does that clarify at all for you? And is that what we're asking?
Yeah, I agree with Tim. I think we can finish this up today and
Yeah.
with remaining money that we have and see what happens.
When you say top 50%, what are you talking about, top 50%?
That
County government
county
projects.
specific, our projects. That's what I
Okay,
mean.
so they're gonna get there and this money could sit there forever then.
No, we're looking to move some of that today.
Today, right.
Yeah.
But then what happens with the money that's left over? Say we don't spend it all today and there's money left over. They wanna wrap it up. They wanna be done today. So what are we gonna do with the money if there's any left over?
Well, that is one of the needs for this. There was a planning document that I had done in the very beginning of ideas of how we could spend this money. It's not like I haven't sat on this and not made any decisions or any thought on it.
I know.
Right,
Get all.
no, I know, I'm not trying to get upset, I'm just trying to say that we have been thinking about this, and the longer I've talked with Mike Elder, our facilities director, how should we tackle this, he asked for some tools. I want a facility condition assessment, what is the status of all our buildings, are they close to end use, are they not? Well, we had a couple of questions in there that are questionable, Orin King, are we gonna stick a lot of money into that? Nina Human Facilities, are we gonna stick a lot of money to that? The firehouse on the airport, that clearly we need a decision there. So we have all these decision points coming up, as well as rooftop and boilers and HVAC for both our county jail and Parkview coming at the same time. So the last tool that Director Elder asked for is the space needs study we're gonna direct today. How much space do we actually need? So it's not a fact of, I'm not trying to drag it out. I'm trying to make sure that whatever money we have, we spend in the best possible way for now and also to set us up the best possible way in the future. So we don't have these giant bubbles that come at us once again. It'd be really easy for me to say it is somebody else's problem in 20 years, have fun with it. I don't wanna do that. You know, I wanna make sure that it makes sense. So I think the parks thing makes sense. Chairman or Supervisor Fari, I think the land and water thing that you push forward makes a lot of sense. And some of the things that we've done here are really fantastic things. So I want to make sure that whatever is our portion is well thought out. And that's, so yes, I think the remainder of the money would go to county needs. I think that makes perfect sense. I think we've done a good job of listening to what the needs are out there and evaluating a lot of these projects.
Vice Chairman Ferry.
I think I've been a little misunderstood. I was addressing your.
You addressed what I asked.
Ethan, in regard to the next agenda item.
Yep.
My assumption is we will have another ARPA commission meeting early April with this board during this term to decide what we need to do and can do with the remaining balance, which will be defined at that time. Then the question becomes, do we move it up into the other ledger, the other side of it, I call a ledger? Or do we address some of the concerns that were raised today and see if we can fund some of these? I mean, I heard one today that affects a lot of people and their sewage, right? So maybe that should be considered at the last meeting we have during this term. That was my intent.
Are we losing, excuse me, but are we losing grip on, when and how we're going to, reconsider any of these projects that we've got hanging fire, or are we just taking that money and putting it in the other group?
So I asked the question to Supervisor Fari because you don't have an action item on that today, so future item. Supervisor Buck asked, could we finish it today? Response, I thought about it. Yes, you could make an amendment to any of these resolutions that are here. You said parks, I guess would be therefore be resolved. This shall be funded initially from the government identified community projects. If that's not enough to fund the full allocation, it'll come from here. So an amendment could take care of it on that, or you could go what I had originally asked Supervisor Pari, have another meeting and clean up the commission. Change maybe the makeup, get rid of the citizen members, and then just go government projects.
There we go. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Okay, I think we've talked about one
Yeah.
long enough for a while. Let's go on and, this will be a short discussion. Invest in emergency traffic barriers. Like I said, we won't have to talk about this very long. We'll go back to that. We won't have to talk about that very long because we do have here today, there and some other ones are going to bring this back in and it has to come in back to the county board. So unless this board wants to go on record saying that they're all in favor like they were, or we could just leave it as is. Yes, sir.
The only reason I asked for this to be on the agenda is to figure out what we do with things when they fail. It's the first time we've had something that failed. It sounds like it's gonna be reconsidered. So I just wanted to discuss options for us. I didn't want us to look at it as money gone and then we could spend it again somewhere else because it's not. It's still alive because people can reconsider. There's a new session coming up. A new commission could reconsider it again. So that was the only reason on the discussion, but it sounds like it is going to be reconsidered.
Great. That was told anyway, and that's what was today, so. So if we want to just leave it as is, a unanimous vote as this board had taken, we can move right along. Okay? All right. Investing in spirit fund dollars from the government identified community project categories and child care. Resolution approving $500,000 from the Spirit Fund's government identified community projects category to expand the child care space and program offering at Oshkosh YMCA. Yes, sir.
I move to approve.
Second.
Motion made, second to approve. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
We're testing the new system, so can I call a roll?
I don't
I'm
care.
showing,
Call
okay.
it.
Yep.
This is the roll
All right.
call.
Supervisor Safari,
Yes.
Orchard,
Yes.
Buck,
Aye.
Cox,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Commissioners Damel,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Oswald, Galloway.
Aye.
9-0.
Okay. Resolution 333-02-2024 approving $350,000 from the Spirit Fund Government Identified Community Project category for child care resource referral to support child care provider with training and mentoring, and in turn provide increased available child care openings in Winnebago County.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Vice Chairman Farley.
Should we elaborate a little? I have on here, this is referred back, am I correct?
Yes.
On the board. Should we address the reasons for referral? I think that would be appropriate. Why was it referred back? Anybody have the direction or minutes?
Vice, you know,
What I believe I heard, was that, how is this, number one, how is this addressing the problem? Another concern that I heard is this is programmatic, it's not capital, right? And what are the metrics of which we can measure this by on how it's actually going to affect child? All very valid, concerns. So I think that's why it came here instead of, in my opinion, I think it would have died on the floor if it went up to vote. And I think that's a concern. And I think unfairly, this and first five, have gone through a rigorous process because we ask people for capital projects, not programs, right? They applied for programs anyways. It has made it this far because of that rigorous, program. And correct me if I'm wrong, when we discussed this before, we acknowledge this is a Band-Aid. We acknowledge this is program and we acknowledge this just to cover a gap for, Tom, I believe you said 3 years. Or when the state's actually gonna come up with something, maybe not come up with some kind of solution. I think we heard, Candy from Child Care Resource and Referral state that she's going to DC to testify in Capitol Hill, for the same issues that the entire nation is having, not just any specific community. So the question is, do we want to send it right back to the county board acknowledging these things? And have they addressed the concerns? Are there anything else that maybe we should prepare or they should prepare, for conversation if it gets back to the board?
That's my point in raising the question, and I think it really brings up the legacy issue, and are we putting money into a program that might be very viable, but it doesn't appear that it can sustain itself without further funding from different group agencies or government.
Yeah.
Which is a undefined question. And I think that's might be what the board was alluding to also. So even if we do approve it, its chances of passage are questionable. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Kind of on the fence on this one, I surveyed amendment. So perhaps my commissioners can convince me to vote yes on this again and send it back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if I'm gonna try to convince you to vote yes on this. I just want to echo the same sentiment as earlier, and I stated on the county board floor that whatever we do, that I know there's some uneasiness with folks that how is this money being spent? It's being spent on the Y. We can see the roof going up on the Y. We can see that happening. This programming, yes, it makes me uneasy as well. And so I think, Mary Ann, you did address some of that in how the resolutions were written. Is that correct?
Right. We added the fact, again, this whole clawback to make sure there is accountability. So down the pike, if it seems that the mission is not being followed, all of the legislation that we have passed, as you folks know, added those 2 paragraphs, as Paul had actually brought up. So, I mean, that's one piece of it.
Chairman Barry.
A follow-up to Supervisor Buck's comments, so it's nice to put those words in a resolution, but if there are no assets to claw back from, where's your clawback?
You know, right?
Oh,
You got nothing.
absolutely, that's.
They declare bankruptcy, you got nothing.
Absolutely. I think we have to do the best we can in having those in there. They weren't in there from the start, and
Yes.
when I tried to offer
totally
an
agree.
amendment, it got shot down, and then the next month mysteriously they were in there and it was just fine. So I think we have to use the most stringent language as possible in here, and you know, we heard from, I think this is viable as well, and I still share that uneasiness, Supervisor Barry, with this.
Yes, that's my concern.
Not everything can be a capital project. I don't wanna take back the YMCA as roof either. And to the point that, Tom was making, there may be a federal solution to this in the near future. Our kids are.
Here.
Yep. So even though we decided that most things were gonna be capital, there's no capital to spend here. The capital are the teachers, are the mentors, are the people taking care of the kids. That's capital too. Yep.
So when we created those four, I think it was four primary, here are the criteria. I think maybe 2 or 3 of the requests fit all of those criteria. And then the rest of them were, well, kind of, but not really. So we did that whole thing to prioritize what of those 4 criteria. And I know legacy capital was really a big one because that was, we can see that it's still here. So not all of them are maybe going to be capital because there might be some criteria that we think supersedes capital. So COVID did exacerbate the issue with daycare. So we are still following in the spirit of COVID, of ARPA, because it's supposed to be COVID relief. This is a gap stop, but it would allow 3 years for the state, for our community, for everybody to figure out what this does for childcare and how to clean up the childcare issue. And then at least I heard Supervisor Hanson ask about what the funding would be for, and of the 520,000 estimated of the total program, about 450,000 of that would go for substitute teachers over the course of the 2.5 years.
May I add to that? No, that went ahead of you. County executive?
Yeah, what I heard in the county board was very clear. There seems to be interest to do something in childcare. Everybody, I don't think anybody disagreed with that. The challenges on this is that, yes, there's not a capital project. I agree. I don't want to take back a roof, either. And Supervisor Buck, I completely understand your, concerns of maybe we're gonna waste this with administrative costs. Government doesn't know anything about that. And I just want to say that I do understand those. I do agree this is short term. I agree this is not a capital project. Supervisor Farr, to your point, this is by no means a legacy project. This is a Band-Aid on a very large wound. And it is really just to get us to that gap, and hopefully the state or the feds understand or come up with something that's gonna solve this, not only for all these, for UNRWA as well. I mean, here's a small childcare facility that's struggling to make it, because of staffing and all these other things. And I believe we heard from the YMCA that if they don't have the staff, they can't be at capacity. If they don't have the licensing, they can't get the capacity. And a lot of the other childcare facilities that I have talked to have agreed that this program is going to help them cover that for now. So with that being said, with it being a short-term thing, with it being programmatic, with it being hard to understand where the accountability is, even though we will do our best to make sure it's there, I am still willing to support this resolution back to the board.
Supervisor Cox.
what you were saying a minute ago, Beth, with regard to how we arrived at the numbers that we thought were good and arrived at, the idea that it is a stopgap program, more or less. We labored on what we wanted to put together for their use. We went from their minimum, I think was 450. And we went to 250, and then went back to 350. What we're really trying to do is to center on something that could be usable for at least the 3 years, and that was going to bring in mentorship over various teachers or people which Candy wanted to bring on to the scene. And I think that it would be a good project, a good solid project to fill the gap right now in our childcare situation, because many of these projects, by giving the Y money to go ahead and spend, many of these projects are gonna be laid out for 5 years or 6 years and won't be fully fulfilled until that time. And we do need some kind of in between it in order to keep it going. So I would go along with the dollars and the intent behind this resolution.
Corporation Council.
Again, just to refresh the commission's recollections, I found the framework of the Spirit Fund spending document that was approved unanimously by this commission on April 14th, 2023. And in addition to the overarching requirements, it talked about project types to base decisions. And I think one of what speaks volumes is, talks about quality of life. And it says parallel with water, Winnebago County's people are an important resource. Projects which improve our quality of life, including enhancements to tourism, health, human services are appropriate. The well-being of our citizens ensures we can recruit, maintain workforce. Projects should especially consider basic needs. So again, I think that ties in to a certain extent. And again, this is a document that was unanimously approved by you about a year and a few months ago.
Supervisor Buck?
Nope, I didn't have anything.
If I might have the liberty, Mr. Chairman, to ask a question from somebody in the audience.
Fine.
The gentleman from the YMCA, I believe you are the director, sir? Yeah. Did you comment that you utilize these services and support the services? We support childcare resources referral and utilize some of their services. This particular one. Say that again, sir. This particular service, we are not using every one.
It's not available.
But we would.
We would. Right now, this service is only being modeled.
Out of Amy Kelly, Matt, and Westhaven County.
Okay, so if it was available, you would use that? Yes, I mean, one of the issues with childcare is when teacher calls in sick, doesn't show or whatever, it impacts, basically the licensing. I mean, we can't be on the side. It's sent to the home. That's a service of support to childcare. And this would provide the backup service you would require. Thank you very much. I appreciate the discussion.
County Executive.
Is there a motion made on this yet?
Yeah.
All right, I'd like-
Yes, motion made and seconded.
Motion made and second for this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it was under discussion.
And we had discussion.
just making sure, yeah.
Beth?
So I think also to go back to the board possibly is the resolution from 2019 where the board resolved to invest in young children and families from prenatal to age 3. I mean, this is early childhood. It's 2019. Here's your legacy. That board, if some of you were on it or not, said we're going to do this. Didn't have the capacity or the money to do it. Now here's your opportunity to follow the wishes of that board in 2019. So this one, I can argue that there is a legacy piece of it. And your clawback piece, I think there's 2 different issues. There's the whole organization goes under. But then I think there's also the issue of accountability. So the organization is still there, but all of a sudden, no, we're not gonna deal with childcare, we're gonna deal with something else. That's a totally different, or it's not following what they're not putting it towards salaries. I think that's another thing that goes to the accountability. So we build parameters around, here's what we wanna see, and
Do we give the money out over a 3-year period or all at once? I mean, that's another way to have accountability. You're only funding for X period of time.
I mean, we could do that. Usually I ask staff, I would ask Paul, what's the easiest way for you? Do you have a recommendation on that?
I wasn't listening on what.
For the $350,000, do you give it all at once, or would there be a way to do it year by year? Quarter. By quarters, well, that seems like a lot of
All at
work.
once is
So this would come, I guess there's two things I would offer. One, we have to look at the resolution because the resolution's been pretty advanced language. The other thing I would do is the resolution says that they have to keep their mission. What we could do is we could say to CCR&R, you have to define the mission and your outcomes as an attachment to the resolution, so the board knows exactly what that mission is and what the expected outcomes are. So that's the way I would do it. I would do contingent on, and you could amend your motion or just do it friendly, just saying, add something to the resolution that's contingent on CCR&R submitting a motion document as an attachment, or excuse me, a mission document as an attachment. Therefore, their outcomes and what they're gonna be held accountable is in front of the board. It gets inserted in their contract. And I think the board sees what they want to see.
I offer your disposition as an amendment to the motion. Well done, sir.
Hopefully you remember what you said.
it's on recording.
It's on recording.
I haven't gotten a second.
Okay, we have a second.
Need a vote on the amendment?
Yes, we do.
Is there any discussion on the amendment?
I just wanna state, we haven't done this for other ones, but I agree because it's programmatic and some of your concerns that this is appropriate.
It has been approved.
Yeah.
We have done it for others. We did it for the, community center in Alamo. And that they sustain their mission in order to, keep continuity in their mission. Or we did that for all.
Yeah, this is beyond that.
Yeah.
For the accountability piece, is there a way that my organization, since this is what we do with every grant application, can assist the county? Because I know you've said we don't have the staff to dole out money and research and make sure, so I will offer up our services to assist with creating a reporting model and evaluation process for CCR&R, and they can report to us and we can turn it over to the county. I don't want to add more, and I know that's not the finance department's forte, so I want to make sure that if it's helpful, that the Oshkosh United Way would help follow up with the programmatic piece of it, because that's what we do. That would make the board feel better that there's some oversight over the reporting.
Or turn around and ask you.
I guess, as long as the amendment is to have a point to us, so I guess it don't matter how it gets to us.
If you think it would help.
Yeah, Beth,
Don't add it in if.
When we
it's not
draft
helpful.
what I have is an amended resolution require mission document as an attachment to the resolution. When we draft that document, we'll include all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a simple amendment to say they have to articulate what the grant's gonna be used for. It's not uncommon.
Mhm.
And then we'll put all your services in that document.
Shaking your head, yes.
Yep. All we're doing here is, thank you, all we're doing here is adding an additional document
Right.
based on the commission's approval to add to the agenda item and resolution that was referred back to us
we're responding to that with a little tougher requirements and sending it back to the board.
Right.
That's the point.
So the motion to require a mission document as an attachment to the resolution.
I would, ask that you keep that language, handy for a future agenda.
Any other discussion? If not on on the amendment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. We're back to the original motion for the $350,000.
One school.
Pardon?
One school.
Right, I will always do.
Call a roll.
I do. Thanks to Morris, I always do. Roll call vote.
Supervisors Cox,
Aye.
Buck,
Aye.
Orchard,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Commissioners Damel.
Aye.
Galloway,
Aye.
Oswald,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
9-0.
Now we have a presentation from Child Care Leader Program. Yes, sir.
No, I appreciate, I just want to explain, this a little bit of why it's on this agenda. This is something Advocate came to us, a while ago, but it was after the Spirit Fund requests were open for that, community identified projects piece. This is something that we could consider, on county land, something that could be part of our project. I just wanted to make sure that there was a presentation out there of some things that are possible, that would be more of a capital thing for childcare, something that we could consider in the future, even out of our top funds, and there may be land over by Parkview on that campus that would that we could partner with them to kind of increase capacity, but also selfishly to help us recruit nurses as well. So with that, I do appreciate you at least putting this presentation. I wanted to be very clear, this is not, we're not trying to slip in an extra Spirit Fund request here. I just wanted a presentation of something Advocate had come to the county about and looking for land.
Thank you, John. I appreciate all of your time. So obviously we had great discussion today about childcare. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity to come here and just talk about our unique, little bit innovative project that we have going on at Advocate. We had received some funding from the state, about a year ago, giving us the opportunity to increase in-home childcare. And as a community action agency, I serve low-income individuals. So when I was up late at night, one night, thinking about how I was going to increase child care in home with my low-income people, I was a little bit dumbfounded because a lot of them are renters. So that wouldn't really provide an opportunity for increased in-home childcare because they would need landlord support. There'd be modifications that need to be done. And then when I think about my low-income individuals owning a home, a lot of those homes would need significant renovations that they would not be able to afford. So then when I was thinking, I was like, well, what if I, Advocate, provided them with a space to provide childcare? And it would be similar to like a hairdresser, right? Renting a space, they're their own business, they provide hair accessories and whatever else that they do in this rented space. So then I was like, okay, what if we provided incubator space for these childcare businesses? And that is something that we do at Advocate. We are a very innovative business development program, helping small businesses create and expand. So that's kind of how, just kind of give you a background of how this project came to light. So if you, okay. So what is a childcare incubator? Like I said, it's the creation of small businesses for the purposes of just providing childcare services. Each incubator would be independently owned and operated.
we would provide the shared space. We would make sure that they are properly licensed, they are properly insured, that they have everything, all the tools and education that they need to be successful as a childcare business. Each incubator would rent a classroom from AdvoCap's childcare facility. But the most important thing here is that when talking to DCF, this would be covered under family childcare center regulations. So we wouldn't have that large center regulations like the YMCA has. Each one would be regulated on their own as they're providing in-home childcare. So in talking to DCF, they would allow that, which was key to this program to make it successful. Any questions on what that might look like? Yeah.
DCF is Department of,
Children and Families.
okay, and do they have standards that, so there wouldn't be discrimination, there wouldn't be, religious barriers?
So that would be our job as AdvoCap, kind of administering this program. We have a business development department, and that is how we as AdvoCap run, without discrimination. The only caveat would be, obviously, we serve low-income individuals, so these businesses would be start up from you would have an income qualification for that. So I've been working with Excel Engineering and Signature Homes, and to develop some kind of model, like what this might look like. They were a little hesitant to do this because I don't have the land carved out yet, so it may look different than this, but I'm like, I just need some kind of idea to show people so that they know what it looks like. So each individual, like classroom, we could call it, is kind of replicative of a home, a small home, a 1,200 square foot home. Each incubator would have its own kitchen, its own bathroom, kind of a classroom space, and then it would also have kind of a sleep area. And the sleep area is designed to provide third shift childcare. So in this model, these might be Murphy beds that could be put up during the day and provide additional classroom space, but then be brought down at night to provide a good place for kids to sleep. I didn't want to just bring in cots because they're sleeping 8 hours on these things. So we need them to be well rested so that they can go to school in the morning. So that's kind of what the model is. And then in this incubator, there's 4 of these. Now, each business can be designed and created differently. Because I'm a sole proprietor, we heard that staffing issues are big, but because I'm a sole proprietor, it takes out that staffing problem. I can work as much as I want to make my living wage, or I can work as little as I want. I might be a stay-at-home mom, so I want to care for my child, but I also would like to make additional income and provide daycare and childcare services for other kids. This model then could be shared. So I may have a first shift here, a second shift here, and a third shift. So it could provide a lot of opportunity for childcare slots. Any questions about that? Yes.
How many children would each unit be able to?
So with in-home childcare rules, one individual can provide up to 8 children, depending on age. Infants are 4. So there's a 1 to 4 or 1 to 8 child ratio. DCF currently only allows 1 adult to be in home. I'm gonna petition them, and I've already talked to the governor's office about this, about allowing 2 adults to provide childcare in 1 facility. That would allow maybe me and my mom to go together in a business together, or me and my sister, or 2 friends. But now we would double the amount of childcare slots in 1 incubator. So it's gonna vary, but at least 8 per unit, but multiple shifts.
Follow-up question, if I might.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea? Of course, you don't know what it would cost you to build it, your construction costs, but obviously for this to work, it has to be feasible, cost effective for a
person to be able to accomplish your goal?
So that's where
How
I'm.
are you gonna supplement that
Yep.
cost?
Yep, so what I need is, I need funding for this building. I need it fully funded so that I don't have to charge an exorbitant amount of rent for my low income individual and business, otherwise they're never gonna come out of their home and do it in licensed childcare setting. They're just gonna keep doing it, providing babysitting services under the table. What we're trying to do is get them out licensed in a safe and good learning environment to provide those childcare services. I am gonna be looking, and I'll get to the budget piece in a little bit, but I'm estimating now because I don't have the land, I don't have any of that, I don't know I'm just guessing. With the help of the contractor and Excel Engineering, we put together approximately a $2 million budget on this. It could be less, I don't think it would be more. That was worst case scenario. I am going to be looking for corporate sponsors to help me with the maintenance and utility costs of this building every year, so that again, I don't have to pass on that to my businesses. The one model that I was looking at doing with this project is any rent that they do pay me, because I do want them to be invested in the building and take care of the building. So charging them rent, I would like to put that rent away for them in a savings account. And then when they grow and expand to a center, they have a little bit of money to help with equipment costs or the purchase of the building. So we're teaching them to save and be accountable with their money and grow their business, and then think about expansion opportunities. And then maybe one day they could get into a center. Any questions? Any other questions? Okay, next slide. Good. So AdvoCap's Business and Workforce Development Department is led by Kathy Doyle. She's back there. She's my main support system here. She has over 30 years of experience with business development. We provide a lot of technical assistance to childcare centers already, so this is not new to us. We already provide those services. We have quite a few childcare centers right now struggling. They come to us for assistance. We have SBA loans that we can maybe help them with. We look at their business plan. How can we make this work better for you? We do a lot of that already. So this is not new for us. This is something that we have been doing all along. We recently hired a business development specialist. Her job is focused solely on childcare. What is going on out there? What do you need from us? How can we help you? If you are in home, would this be a great fit for you? Kind of working on those angles and getting those childcare slots open. And then we will always be here for any of our startup businesses for technical assistance. So if they, start up their business and are like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm having trouble, we're there. Like, they're not in this, it's not like we're throwing them in the incubator and then, saying, see you. We're here all the time for them to develop this. Next slide, please. So the childcare impact, the incubator, we could, like you were asking, could have slots anywhere from 32 slots, 8 in each, up to over 100, depending on how many businesses we can get coordinated in there. We're creating new small businesses through the incubator, which allows opportunity for future growth and expansion. So we're getting them started, and then we want to see them grow and blossom and maybe become a facility one day and become that center. And then it also, the big one is it provides opportunity for third shift childcare. Yeah.
How many third shift childcare opportunities are there in the county? Do you know offhand, or
I thought I saw a statistic, there were only 2.
in the whole county?
Yes. Yes. I pitched this just as a side story, I guess. My son is dating a girl. She goes to UW Oshkosh. She's going to school for teaching. I kind of talked to her a little bit about this incubator, and I'm like, wouldn't it be great as a student? We already know that you love children, right? Wouldn't it be great to be able to create your own business, watch children at night while you're studying or sleeping in a safe environment for kids and make a little extra income for your college debt. And she's like, oh my gosh, like that is so cool. And then I saw her a couple weeks later and she's like, oh my gosh, I cannot stop thinking about this project. Like this would have been such a great opportunity for me to reduce my debt, make some more income and reduce my debt when I get out of school. Plus I have the experience now of being a business owner. So it's just thinking outside of the box a little bit. You know, and I mean, there's no disrespect for what we're doing already for childcare, but this is maybe just a little bit different type of a solution.
And just one more point,
Yeah.
that most childcare places are not open before 6 o'clock in the morning, so that is a huge
Correct.
barrier for folks looking for childcare.
Correct.
Huge.
Correct. And again, maybe I'm a student and my classes don't start till noon but I could watch kids from, 6 or 5 to noon or, make that little bit of money before you even step into the classroom. So there's lots of opportunity here for growth and independence and small business growth and innovation, really. So as the project summary, like I said, the incubator building is estimated to cost about $2 million. I have been really hitting the pavement the last month, 2 months. I've been down to Madison. I've been talking to Governor Evers. I talked to all of our local representatives and senators. It has bipartisan support. Everybody is very enthusiastic about this project. We did apply for ARPA funding through the city of Oshkosh, so we're waiting to hear back from them. And then we're also going to be applying to the Community Economic Development Grant through the Office of Community Services. They just funded, I think 2 years ago, they funded a childcare center. So obviously childcare is very much on everybody's radar. It's a national issue. It's just not here.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. One of the things that, I appreciate a lot of the things about this, about, an opportunity for somebody to improve their lives, an opportunity for childcare to be improved, and opportunity for growth. I really appreciate the idea of incubators, to kind of help with the burden that everybody's seeing around here. I appreciate some of the flexibilities. And I just want to point out the fact that that I appreciate that a lot of childcare entities, whether it be the YMCA or childcare resource referral, seem to be talking together.
Yep.
That it doesn't feel like there's a competition when I talk to people.
Right.
And that there would be a way for childcare resource and referral to work with you on this.
Yep.
Maybe this is a model that the YMCA can help adopt as well. There are other things in this I just wanted to point that
Thank you.
out.
And we're looking for growth too, right? So maybe you come out of the incubator and you can take on the AMRO childcare center through the YMCA. There's just ways that we can all partner and work together through this. WICA is gonna be an important piece on this through their shared services, WESN program. So yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of opportunity for community collaboration on this project.
So I assume reaching out then to the county exec, not for funding of the project, but a piece of land to put the building on. Is that my understanding?
We had talked about a couple options and I thought that was probably one of the easier ways to go about it. And if we're going to do it, maybe we have some of our infrastructure on our land, is there power, is there plumbing ran out there? There are some costs that we as a county could look at, for them to put a building on our land, as internal costs as a landlord. I thought that this would be a good fit, obviously, I said it before, for Parkview, since, we need nurses, to open up 2 neighborhoods. So that was when we had the conversation. I was very forward that you missed the window of opportunity for the Spirit Fund request. But for potentially there is, an internal use that we could do, or a partnership that we could have, and I wanted to look at the Parkview campus or that land anywhere in there that we have, as an option. That's why I wanted to, invite AVCAP here for a presentation today, so that we can have, a little bit of an idea of what they're talking about, the board as a whole and the community as a whole, just to know what some of the options are.
do want to know too, I don't know if you can go back to the plan, the incubator plan. But if you look at it, I am structuring it so that they look and feel like homes. If this project, to be cognizant of taxpayer dollars, if this project does not end up taking off, we can always convert those to, housing units. So it would provide for, houses, because they're 1,200 square feet. So we could easily put in some walls and divide that up 4 bedrooms. I don't anticipate that, but I just wanted you to know that I am, trying to be cognizant of taxpayer dollars. So that we just don't have an empty building sitting there in the middle of nowhere that nobody can utilize. Well, any other questions?
No, one more comment. I mean, if you really truly, do we have space at Parkview out there to offer? We do? Okay. I mean, being the husband of a nurse that has young kids, I don't know if there's a daycare at a hospital in Northeast Wisconsin. I have long thought that whoever figures that out is going to be able to attract and retain nurses for a while. And not only that, we have Winnebago Mental Health right around the corner. I mean, it's a very good location if that is so chosen, right there. I mean, to be able to, so yeah, I think it's tremendous.
He's the chairman of the facilities committee, so.
Oh, excellent. Andy, you actually used to be on my board. John designates 3 board members to be on my board. Currently, we have Don Nussbaum, Shauna Zastera, and then Ed Jazorni. His last name is hard. So yes, we appreciate the county's participation on our board as well, so. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And if you hear of the child care incubator, now you'll know a little bit more about what we're talking about. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is resolution approving blank from the Spirit Fund Government Identified Community Projects category. The first 5 Fox Valley to promote cross-sector collaboration and build an efficient, effective, and equitable family support system. Request is for 300,000. Equitable word. Yes.
For discussion purposes,
Got to get on the floor first.
no, right, and they did say 275, everybody caught that before in the
Yes.
public comments? All right. So I would like to make a motion to bring this forward with the 275,000 from the Spirit Fund Government Identified Community Project category, the first 5 Fox Valley to promote cross-sector collaboration and build an efficient, effective, and equitable family support system.
Your motion to approve?
He's getting it
For
on the
discussion.
floor.
Yeah, well, motion to approve in the purpose of discussion.
Do we have a second? Discussion now. Open for discussion.
I think I have to separate emotions, from logic on this one a little bit for myself. I always appreciate feedback, especially when it's harsh, especially when it's critical. But I think some of the comments, made today, if I could be honest, weren't very helpful for the cause. And I mean, with that, again, I understand that this is something that I want to look at as a Band-Aid. And this is not something that we can fund sustainably for the future. And I remember our Director of Human Services asked for this to be held off for a month so they can evaluate it. And in the report, and they said that they have, and they understand. They think that some of these other services may be coming around the horizon, much like childcare. That being said, even though I personally will be able to heal and get over some of the comments that were made, that were kind of disparaging and open comments. I think I'm ready to trust both my health director and my human services director, saying this is something that they need to cover the gap. But if it does go forward, I would appreciate an amendment for the same language we did with the other one, and I'm gonna hold that for now.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? That's what you just
I'm
did.
doing math. I'm doing math. Hang on. Math.
Would an amendment to the amount be valued?
It was brought up, I brought the motion forward at 275,000. I think an amendment for the same language we did for child care resource and referral would be appropriate.
I was just gonna say, I can, if it's helpful and this goes to the resolution, I do have, the pro forma on expenses and where expenditures would lie, so if there are any questions. And I was gonna bring this last time, but I was deathly sick, so apologies that you don't have this stuff in front of you, but I have it in front of me if there are any specific questions on how the money would be used.
How much is going to fixed assets?
Is it?
Fixed occupancy.
Well, it could be rent.
I mean, this is. They are renting, I mean, this is to bring somebody to Oshkosh, so they would be renting or partnering, very cost effective through the community center, the new Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
Community center. A bulk of it is staffing. Really, I mean, there's nothing in the pro forma that's exorbitant.
Did you say that renting? So,
Yeah, so the Oshkosh Boys and Girls Club is building a community center for nonprofits to offer services out of their community center in a collaborative, like Levin in Menasha. So it's very, very, very cost effective, very low operating costs. I think they have their occupancy at 2,000 for a year. So renting an office out of their space.
they estimated the entire project at $450,000 according to the list.
And they said
Pro
two.
forma that I've got there,
Mhm.
450.
It's now about 417. I cleared out my calculator, but that's what I was quick adding up, but that's because originally it was 3 years and now it's 2.5 years. So all expenses collectively come to about 420,000.
What happens after our money runs out? Program ad.
Well-
That's okay. You set up a fiscal glitch.
Barb is, I think I'm gonna call if you want to ask questions of her. No, I mean, that's. Is it something similar to CCR&R that we're agreeing is a in between, and if it doesn't continue on? Or do we want that?
We can ask Barb. No. Barb, are you still on?
Oh.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. You know, the goal for us would not to have this program be needed. Because if we do this intervention now, we'll have fewer and fewer children that are coming through with the needs and developmental needs that we need. So it's always been our model to be able to reduce, especially as birth rates reduce too. So if we get the interventions now, that were developed through that COVID pandemic, we're hoping to not have to have this type of work, or if we do, it's greatly reduced. And I'm very sorry for this disparaging comments, Mr. Dumal. I'm sorry.
Appreciate that. I'd like to make an amendment to add the same wording we did to the child care resource and referral.
Do we have a motion to put it on the floor to approve?
I did, yeah. Yep. Ethan, could you read the language on that again?
No, motion to, what did it say? Hold on. It's gonna be-
I just said motion to require mission documents to attach to the resolution.
Attach the mission.
She's got your job over here.
Motion
No,
to
no, I
require
just-
a mission document as attachment to the resolution.
I said that because he said that.
Right.
Cassie.
Yeah,
What? What I
I said
said?
that to Cassie, so.
that's the motion I'd like to make.
Okay, so there's a motion for amendment on the floor at this time to go ahead and add the wording that,
Require mission document to attach to the resolution.
that one.
Is that right, Ethan? Is
Yeah.
that what you wanted?
Yeah, that's just what they said. So there's a motion, is there a second on that?
Second.
Second. Yeah, on the motion,
I don't have a question on the motion. I
Or on the
question back
amendment,
to
I should
Barb. Yep.
anything else on the amendment? Discussion on the amendment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, carried. Barb, are you still there?
I am. Thank you so much. I am hoping you are going to see amazing outcomes that you won't.
Not asked yet, Barb.
No.
Amendment, I motion.
Barb, that approval was just to add some verbiage to the resolution. The resolution hasn't passed yet. I just have a follow-up question after some of our conversations. You were talking about navigators embedding within organizations. So can you expand upon that as your sustainability? That there would be some training of existing staff within organizations to take over some of these programming pieces?
Sure. So the way our navigators are chosen is, and how we work with our partner agencies is, say, Birth to Three has a person that works as a Help Me Grow navigator. So the goal for them is that as we have fewer numbers of children that need this after the interventions, the work would be embedded within the organizations that are already existing. So Birth to Three has a part-time person that has a hat that's a Help Me Grow navigator. Parent Connections with home visiting has a person also that then they would embed this work in their own program grants and budgets. So that's kind of the model it's working, and we give seed money to get started, and the training and the programs work together. So they're not our employees, they're the employees of our partner agencies who are learning the work and supporting these families after they've had this first intervention.
So this wouldn't necessarily be a cliff because the money ran out and now staff go away. The program has been, the partners have been trained how to run the program. So
Right.
then,
Correct. How to support the ongoing aspects of working with the Help Me Grow database and working within our developmental screening project. So they have access now to those tools that they can still use, Help Me Grow, but they use it embedded within their own programs at that point.
so it's kind of like a 3-year intensive training to get other organizations up to speed to use these tools, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept $275,000 for first 5 Fox Valley remote cross-section collaboration as amended.
I thought I made that motion.
With the amendment, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Amendment passed, correct,
All right.
Marianne?
Yeah, we gotta go with all of
Okay.
it, so now we're on the whole one.
Yep.
So, any other discussion? Roll call.
Supervisors, Supervisors Cox,
Nay.
Buck,
Nay.
Orchard,
Yes.
Barry,
Hey.
Egan,
Yes.
Commissioner Daniel,
Yes.
Galloway,
Yes.
Oswald,
Yes.
Belter,
Yes.
6-3.
Discussion and possible action, or request from the Spirit Fund Government Identified Community Project category for property expansion or programming for the YMCA of the Fox Cities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
This, this amount to the math that we have, was 500,000. This is the Nina YMCA, correct?
Right. Any other discussion?
Who was the seconder?
Andy.
Okay, Andy. Any other discussion?
Clarification of the motion. This is the motion to approve
Yes.
500,000 for the Nina YMCA. Okay. All right.
Roll call.
Supervisors Cox,
Aye.
Buck,
Aye.
Orchard,
Yep.
Barry,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Commissioners Galloway,
Aye.
Oswald,
Aye.
Belter,
Yes.
Daniel.
Aye.
9-0.
Presentation proposed allocation of the county government project. Yeah. Resolution approval of $300,000 in spirit funds for comprehensive space needs assessment and facility master plan from the county government projects category.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Elder. I'm the Director of Facilities. And I think we've all got an item report in your packet. Back in 2023, actually, back in 1998, I told the county executive at that time, we really needed to do a facilities condition assessment to see where we stood with all of our buildings. And it took us 25 years to get to that point. So last year, we did the facilities condition assessment of all of our county buildings. And it gave us a snapshot of the health of our buildings. And what we found out was we have approximately $100 million worth of repairs that are in the next 30-year window. But if we narrow that window down to about the next 10 years, a real planning window, we're at about $66 to $69 million. Part of what the facilities condition assessment showed us was that we have a number of buildings that are at the end of their life and another number of them that are close to the end of their life. So as the facilities director and as a taxpayer, I really don't want to spend money on buildings that may or may not suit the needs of what the county is. So the next ask that I'm having is that we actually take a look at a space needs assessment, and then have a master plan on how we're going to meet the needs of what the county departments need to do to provide the services to the public. And it's really hard to tell you what we need because nobody's asked that question. I am questioned probably on a monthly basis about where do we have room to do this? Where can we do this? I need more room to do these programs. And basically, without a comprehensive look at what everybody needs, we're not really gonna know that. I think we've got about 1 million square feet of space with our buildings. Is it all utilized to the best of its ability? What I would like to do is have an impartial person take a look at it and interview all of the departments, find out what their plans are for the next 5 to 10 years for staffing or for programs, and see how that works in our facilities. One of the prime examples of how our buildings haven't grown and worked with us is just this space right here. You know, we don't have large meeting spaces. So we've carved out a space here to make this work. We don't have, COVID and everything showed us how we have to use technology to conduct meetings. We're using an old screen and a projector when we could be using more technologically advanced methods of getting the message across to people. Most of our buildings have got staff are shoehorned into it. Our Neenah Human Services building, we're going through a process right now, trying to make accommodations for the Veterans Office. Their needs have grown over the last 20 years with the increase in the number of veterans that we have. Human Services has been expanding some of their programs, and I believe right now they are renting space because we really don't have a good place to put them in any of our buildings. So that's what I'm hoping that this plan will do, is take a look at everybody's needs at one time, come up with a master plan, and see how we can provide our services to the public in a more effective and efficient manner. If you take a look at, I have a map there. If you take a look, our facilities are scattered throughout the county. The county has grown and changed in the last 25 years. You know, Amro was a small little town or village. Winnebago County was a little town or village 30 years ago. And you can just see going out 44 or out 91, how subdivisions and everything are going further out into the county, and maybe having everything centralized in Oshkosh or in Neenah or out by Parkview may not be the best way that we can reach our constituents. So that is the crux of what I'm asking for with this request for funding. And I'll take any questions that people might have.
John?
Has a motion been made to put this on the table already?
No, you just give me the presentation right now.
I'd like to make a motion to approve $300,000 in the Spirit Fund Comprehensive Space Needs Assessment and Facility Master Plan for the County Government Projects category.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Mr. Chairman Barry.
Actually, I had a question, but it'll dovetail into this. I'm kind of looking at the facility study from a little different point of view. And in your agenda item report, it refers to useful lives, buildings, design, all that kind of stuff. To me, the useful life of a building is conditioned upon the maintenance of the building. For instance, a wood frame building, well maintained, will last 100 years.
Correct.
A masonry building will last quite longer. In fact, the building we're sitting in discussing this is probably 100 years old, based on my initial research. So, you know, and then I look at this list here and it's got 3 buildings. I believe they should be replaced. They are in red. Sunnyview Garage. That's the hangar at the aviation out there. How much emphasis are you putting on the cost to maintain the buildings versus just looking at blanket, well, we're gonna tear down 3 new ones and build them? I mean, I'm a little hesitant to say, let's get into that program. I would prefer to hear, I need more money for maintenance of the buildings. Now, if you're looking at consolidating buildings, reducing cost, liability, that's a different thing. So help me understand my question.
That's kind of what I'm trying to get into with the master plan. When you talk about the useful life of a building, you can have, you know, we look at it, you can say you want to be effective and efficient. I can be very efficient doing the wrong thing. And that's what some of our buildings are doing. I'm not advocating that we tear down buildings. I'm advocating that we take a look at what everybody needs to make sure that we can make the buildings that we have work. And if we can't make them work, then we have to look at other options, not necessarily building new or what? Maybe just expanding a building or gutting a whole floor and coming back and rearranging the offices. If you take a look at, you've seen us out at Knapp Street. We got shoehorned into an old highway building.
Yes.
It works for us, but it doesn't work the best for us. You know, Nina probably worked well for human services and the people up there for the first few years, but it's got no parking. It's not laid out well for everybody. And if you start taking a look at society, we're starting to have more and more incidents of people coming into the buildings with mischief on their minds, if you want to call it. And we really, you know, we talked about years ago having to put security on the front of the courthouse. But it's getting to the point now where people are coming in and they are willing to create a disturbance or create even worse. And our buildings aren't even set up for that. We have no way to look at security. I know we're a public building and people are supposed to come in, but we also want people to come in and be safe when they come into the buildings. And we need to look at that and see how we can make that work. So to answer your question, yes, I'm looking at, I've had supervisors ask me if I could use more people. I definitely could use more people to take care of the buildings. But when you look at the pie that we've got to take care of everything that the county has, if I add on 10 people to my department, because we've expanded out into other things, we're probably talking $500,000 to $750,000 worth of additional labor and benefits, which means that $500,000, $750,000 has to come from somewhere else because the pie doesn't get bigger just because I need more people. So if we could look at a way of reconfiguring what we've got, making what we have last longer, making it more efficient so that, well, you know, take a look at my department. I'm down at Knapp Street. We drive here, we drive to the jail, we drive to Nina, we drive to Parkview. You know, we probably spend maybe 1 or 2 man days a day in transportation, getting around to all of our different buildings. You know, if a master plan would come out and say, we need to consolidate and put these buildings in one place, maybe I wouldn't need any more people. You know, if we do a space study and we take a look at it and say, because of COVID, we found out that 20% of our staff can work from home or work a hybrid schedule where they only have time in the office 1 or 2 days a week. Well, that means 2 or 3 people can use one office. That means we can cut 20 to 30% of our office space down. But until we start asking the right questions, I can't tell you what we need for buildings. And then I'm just stuck putting millions of dollars into buildings that may or may not do what we need them to do.
I apologize, I missed the first part of your presentation, but as I was walking to the bathrooms, I thought I heard you say $100 billion?
Yeah, $100 billion in about the next 30 years.
To do what? Maintain the building?
Maintain the buildings.
So is this initiative, the question of the county exec, to reduce costs?
Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, the idea is whatever is the most efficient and most affordable in the long run, number one. Look at our space needs. We don't have any, I guess, what do you call it, where we need to make sure that how big an office is?
Space standards.
Space standards. We have some offices that are huge. What do you actually need? How many people actually need an office? How many people can do a hotel office? How many office spaces can be shared? Are we maximizing our spaces?
And this study's gonna tell you.
Well, yeah, this study will tell us how much space we actually need, how many positions we have that actually need their own office and correct, and set some standards for us going forward. So we don't just have, I guess, open waste and space.
What's the time frame that this is approved? For
Well, it took
completion of the study.
It took us about 6 months to do the facilities condition assessment. I'd say 6 to 9 months. Because we're gonna have to talk to every department and every department's gonna have to do some soul searching on their own part so that they can give us good questions. We can ask them questions to flesh out their needs, but we've got to give the departments time to think about how should they or how do they need to do their business.
So we should have some answers and direction by the end of this year. That's the focus here.
Yes, that's the focus. And to elaborate on your question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
One of the things, private sector does things obviously different than government, right? In the private sector, you would set aside 2% of your building costs annually to prepare yourself for maintenance. That's kind of how you budget for that. Government, we can't do that. It's not right for me to take 2% of the cost of a building from the public because I might need it in 5 years, right? And I can guarantee you that they need it today. So public sector does things a little bit differently than private sector as for that regard. And Mike, we've talked about this. It'd be nice if you could set aside 2% of every building. And that would cover the cost ongoing. It'd never be an issue.
If you look at our portfolio is probably worth about $140 to $160 million. So we're talking, what, 2% of that is $3 to $5 million a year, just to put aside for future needs.
I do recall years ago, you wanted a fund established just for doing, roof repairs, as I recall. Was a good idea, actually. I think you've answered my questions. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do we use an outside vendor for this, or who does the work?
We would have to go outside.
When
Right. When we did the facilities condition assessment, there were a minimum of 3 outside people that worked on it, basically 6 months nonstop.
Any other questions? Now, we have a resolution on the floor to go ahead for $300,000 from the Spirit Fund Comprehensive Space Needs Assessment Facility Master Plan from the county government project category. No other questions? Roll call.
Surratt, Cox,
Hey.
Buck,
Aye.
Porcher,
Yep.
Sorry.
I'll vote yes.
Keegan. Aye. The Commissioners Galloway,
Yes.
Oswald,
Yes.
Belter,
Yes.
Sample.
Yes.
8-1.
Thank you.
Resolution allocation of $3,900,000 in spirit funds from the county government project category to improve outdoor recreation Winnebago County. I believe we have the parks. This guy's still here. There he is.
I'm here. On there.
We'll get the PowerPoint thrown up there, but thank you for having me this afternoon, allowing me to present on the Winnebago County Parks Department Comprehensive Spirit Fund request. The executive and I have been working on this and working with a consultant too through the Comprehensive Out Direct Plan and Master Plan of the Community Park since June of last year. So it's been a plan that's been long in the making and a lot of effort has been put into it. A lot of public input has been put into it as well. As we've had several public meetings. I'm just gonna go over a few things while it's loading. We've had several public meetings, 2 in person to the public, 2 surveys, 1 specific to the community park, 1 survey to the park system as a whole, including all of our trails, our boat landings, nature preserves, and so on and so forth. And then a consultant that's helped us work through all the different iterations and our current capital plan to put together a plan. And part of that plan is, and you'll see a little bit more of the whole plan, but part of that plan is the Spirit Fund request that we're requesting today. So we'll go, that's my front side. So with our, one more. Yep. So with our Spirit Fund request, we wanted to make sure that we could call it back to a few goals and then objectives under those goals. So we have 2 goals and then we have 3 objectives under each goal. The first goal, which I know we just kind of heard from a little bit when it comes to facilities as well, and it's a common theme within the Winnebago County, is long-term maintenance and maintenance in general. So our 3 objectives underneath that particular goal are to create resiliency by addressing the cost for future capital or ongoing maintenance projects due to the needed maintenance. address current maintenance issues throughout our park system that require one-time costs. And you'll see I do tie these to the projects as we go forward, so I'll go into a little bit more detail and to show you how they tie to our projects. Reduce long-term maintenance to staff, save on staff time. As was mentioned also previously, you know, we have limited number of resources when it comes to staff. Which means when we have 5 staff for 1,000 acres of parkland, for instance. So we do have limited number of maintenance staff that can continue to support our parks department. So we want to make sure that what we have in our parks department is sustainable, and is the least amount of maintenance as possible. Then we also, our other goal is to provide more opportunities for residents and users of the park system. We want to provide more open space. As a county, we want to focus on open space, whether it's our soccer complex, our rugby complex. We have disc golf at the community park. We have 15 miles of the Waiawash Trail, nature preserves, and obviously the open water. So we want to focus on open space. Then we're also focusing on providing access to water, because as I just mentioned with water, it's a very important resource, as you know, living in Winnebago County. And then providing more capacity for the user groups. So some of our existing facilities are getting to capacity and being able to expand upon that capacity so it can be more utilized. Next one. So the process that we're proposing for this particular request, I know it's been a while, that was one of the first requests, but we want to kind of go back to a little bit of what the Land and Water Conservation Department requested for their grant program. So the request is to approve 3.9 million, and you'll see kind of how that breaks down. I break it down in the projects. 3.9 million in spirit funds towards outdoor recreation. Then staff, my department would work through our master plan and through the projects that we have. And we work down the list, and then staff would then bring those projects to the Parks Committee for kind of a final push through. The goal is, and what you can see down here in the next point, is that we can tie a lot of these projects to other grant opportunities. So as an example, and it'll be the first project that we go to next, but the Waukau Dam is a project that we actually started this year, last year into this year. The county board approved engineering funds to repair the Waukau Dam and to repair the embankment. And we did receive a $751,000 grant from the Wisconsin DNR, which is 50% of the project. So we want to be able to leverage the funds that we're requesting from the Spirit Fund to be able to do more with the money that is given through to the outdoor recreation. I already mentioned about how the Park and Recreation would advance the projects. And then there would be an update provided to the county board annually as we go through the projects. So just to kind of highlight a little bit of data, I won't go too crazy, but the first one, so some of these tie back to, or they do tie to the projects that we're looking at. So the Waukau Dam, as I mentioned, $751,000 has already been given by the state, and now we're just waiting for the county match. The second set of data is 2 years ago, we started, when I first got here, we didn't have any data on our trails. We have the Waiawash Trail, we have Mascoutin Trail, we have, and on the boat landings too. Really on a lot of the stuff that we do in the Parks Department, we didn't have a lot of measurables. We're not a Parks and Recreation Department like maybe the city of Oshkosh, Neenah, that has a lot of recreation programming or that type of thing that we operate where we can show attendance. So we need to have other methods to do that, which we put trail counters out at the trails. And we put car counters out at the boat landings. So we've been able to start compiling some of that data over the last several years, and we keep expanding on that program and adding them in new places, and we can move them around. But we wanted to start in our high traffic areas. So the Waiawash Trail is an example, and that's part of one of the requests. We have a trail counter at Westwind, which is by the Heritage Crossing Bridge, closer to Oshkosh. We have one then in the middle of the county going north-south in Allenville. And then we have one at Medina Junction, which is basically the county line between Outagamie and Winnebago. So these, one thing I do want to say with these trail counter data, with the trail counter data, is this is the total amount. So 42,144 is the amount of people that walked by that counter in a year. I do want to at least be fair. Our trail is pretty much a one-way. If I'm walking down the trail, more than likely I'm going back. So I did also compile for the data, just to be completely transparent. I'm assuming more 50% of that. So 50% would be 21,000 and then 11,000 and then 12,000 as we look down the data in terms of where we have them on the trail. With the boat landings, it's a little different because we are able to take it by lane. The Grumman one though was a smaller entry, before we just remodeled it. So what we did with that is, or what I did with that, this is still the total car counter data. But taking into account that probably about 2/3 of that is what really went through of unique individual cars, which would be 36,000 and 21,000. So we have a lot of cars, a lot of vehicles, a lot of people that come to our boat landings and utilize our boat landings because, as I mentioned, are our important resource with the lakes and with the water. Also, at our boat landings, we have 7 boat landings, and there's not as much of an opportunity for someone who doesn't own a boat, maybe doesn't own a kayak or doesn't have a way to get out on the water to be able to get out on the natural resource within the county. So one of the things we want to look at doing is also providing more opportunities for that. Then with the community park, the soccer, we have in the request, we'll go over that in more detail, but soccer fields, rugby fields, we're having issues, or the clubs and the groups that are actually operating it. For the most part, it's not the county. It's all the user groups that have vested time after years and years in terms of being at capacity. So these fields are at capacity. The maintenance, and we'll go into that more detail. This is more statistic driven. But then the playgrounds, we have 4 playgrounds at community park. Some of them, or one of them, for instance, we're removing and not replacing. We're looking through the master plan of which ones we remove, don't replace, versus which ones we should replace. They're all over 25 years old. They were built in 97 and 98. And a typical lifespan of a playground is 25 years, and you can see the wear on them, whether it's the rusting decking where you stand, whether it's slides cracking and having to replace those. And just even when they were built back then, the safety features of them are much different than current playgrounds. Of course, they're not as accessible either, because in the 90s, that wasn't as much of a driving factor in design of playgrounds. And then adding capacity, right now we do have 3 multi-courts, basically multi-purpose courts that are basketball, tennis, and pickleball. And so adding more capacity to the park by building pickleball court complex to the north. Once again, though, you'll notice a lot of our focus with these projects is, and we'll go over it when we get to more projects, is a lot of what we do, whether it's the rugby, soccer, it's more tournament, more economic development driven in the sense of we're having people come from outside the county, even other states. When we get to rugby, you'll see that. And so if we were to do something with pickleball, that's why that's the recommendation is. So we're building a community where tournaments can happen because we have the space at the park. So we'll go to the next one. So this is the project list. At the end, I have the dollars tied to it so you can see, but Walkout Dam, we'll go through each individually, so I'll go quick to this. Wash Trail, paving from UWO to Lakeview to Moore Drive. The 3 boat landings, adding self-service kayak rental stations to those. And then I kind of mentioned a little bit with the community park, but replacing playground 3 and constructing a new shelter and a new playground concession stand, building a 3rd and 4th rugby field, and then removing the softball field, properly tilling and grading 4 soccer fields, adding an additional soccer field, and adding that pickleball court complex that we were talking. So go to the next one. We'll go through, so this is kind of, the red dots show you just a little better picture of kind of where these projects are within the county, so you can see locations and where they're spread out through the county. The next one. All right, so the first one is Walkout Dam, and what I want to highlight first is this blue box. So I mentioned we're always going back to our goals and we're going back to our objectives as to why we pick these projects. We have a lot of things going on in the Parks Department. We have, our capital improvement plan, but when looking at legacy projects and things that are going to help us in the long term and be long-lasting projects, we always refer back to our goals and our objectives. So this particular one, and not all of them do, but you'll notice this particular one does meet all 6 criteria that we put in place. It creates that resiliency, it addresses a current maintenance issue that we have, it reduces long-term maintenance, it's open space because it's our nature preserve. Our issue here is the water access, which I'll show in a second. Actually, we'll slide in a second. And then increasing capacity. So I'll show, if you can flick it, it should play the video. Okay, so here's the biggest issue that we're having at Walkout Dam, and I'll show an overall map later so you can kind of see the project. But this is our pond at the Walkout Dam. And what we have is, this is just a snow melt. This isn't even a rain event. What you'll notice is it's washing away and it's washing through the embankment and it's going towards the creek, Walkout Creek. And it's about 2-3 feet deep. So what's happening is, and this has been happening for 10 years now, is even a normal rainfall or slightly above average rainfall is causing it to spill over and it's causing the erosion of the embankment. So what we need to do to be able to protect and save the pond, so it can stay for fishing, and it's also used by, the town for filling their fire truck and their fire tanker, is basically making sure we maintain and protect the pond. Let's move
Forward.
slide, yep. Let's just even go, instead of just saying it, I'd rather show it. Yeah, there we go. So this is the Waukau Dam. This is the master plan. So existing right now is we do have this pond. We have, a fishing pier here. We have a parking lot that's pretty much gravel. And then we do have 1, 2, and 3 dams. So this is the overflow dam to the creek. This is the dam going into the pond, and then this is the dam going out of the pond. These brown lines here are existing single track bike trails that are run by a, nonprofit organization. There is no maintenance from the county, which is really nice. So it's a really nice single track bike trail that's out there. And that's how you'll notice even with soccer, with rugby, that's how we're able to do a lot of what we do is with these partnerships. So what we're looking to do, this is where the water was washing over when we were walking this way, is we're looking to create and build, and I know it's much larger scale, but I don't know those of you, I actually lived in the Dells when this happened, when, Lake Delton and Wisconsin Dells flowed over and it ruined the embankment and it dried out the lake. It was almost national news, so I'm sure you've heard, obviously. But so what we're looking to do, what they did, so on a smaller scale, is they basically built a lower area, a lower protected armored area. So that way the water can spill over during larger rain events and it doesn't wash it out. So imagine what this would be like a flexible concrete. So basically grass can grow through the cracks, so it'll eventually look at least a little bit more natural. But it allows it to flow over without washing it out like it was creating those channels before. Then this green space would be geotech, basically the 8-carton grid type, protection. So that way in a larger rain event, when it spreads out even more, that it would protect the embankment there. What I don't have pictures on this particular slide of is our, crossings of our dams too. They're an old metal grate, they're wavy, and they're too narrow for, accessibility. So those in wheelchairs, those in walkers, honestly, even those that just aren't as proficient at walking, I would not recommend to go over them. In fact, this particular one, because of the washout, at the end, after the bridge, it just drops off. And when I say drop off, I mean about 3-4 feet. So what we want to do is we're going to be putting new railings and new walkways, essentially new mini bridges. These aren't very big dams. So we're talking 10, 15, 20 foot long bridges, basically to make sure you can traverse across more safely and creating those concrete approaches to them. So there's no trip hazards. Then we'd be adding 2 more fishing docks, redoing the parking lot. There is no site lighting out there right now. So adding that security and that safety. So if you're out there at dusk or at dark, that you're able, and also it does help too from a security and patrol standpoint, so they can see if there's any cars down there in the middle of the night, the sheriff department. We would be actually reinforcing this. This is the current drive. So when they need to fill up their fire tanker, that they can back up right on here. So we're gonna make a wider, more reinforced asphalt approach there. And just a really, really small, like 20 by 20 picnic shelter. The only thing that's not happening in that project is this parking lot is no longer gonna happen because it's too close to the intersection. There's some realignment we would have to do there. It could be in the future, but that's, we're talking with highway and talking with the state DOT, that wouldn't be part of the existing project. So this is the project that already has a state DNR grant for $751,000. So already has a 50% matching grant. Now we.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're great. So this, and I apologize because the sun is, on part of it from, I think maybe that one or that one. I'm not sure which one. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. So this one does fit all 6 again. The open space, the water access, increasing capacity, creating resiliency, long-term maintenance. What we're proposing to do, is basically, let's go into the pictures again. I prefer the pictures.
Okay, or well.
Forward. It's just easier to illustrate. Okay, so the Y-Wash Trail from UWO, it starts down actually UWO, and for those of you who don't know, it actually goes all the way into Outagamie County, up into, it's about 22 miles in total. So this is the starting point down at UW Oshkosh. Right now, our stretch from UW Oshkosh Activity Center to Rockwell Avenue. It's an asphalt trail. It's spider cracked. It's got bumps in it and its tree roots are going through. It's not safe right now. So the county needs to essentially fix this portion of the trail and mill it, or pulverize it, overlay it with new asphalt, get rid of any tree roots, remove any trees that are just gonna do it again in the future. Then the trail crosses Rockwell, and this is an existing gravel trail. And then right now it actually goes through the woods. So right now here it goes through the woods. Meritor Cummings Electric, the company that owns this building at this time, we actually have an easement with them. And the easement does state that they can, this was a question because I presented this at the county board last night too. The easement does say that they can, force the grantee to have to move, the trail. So they've been requesting for a while and they've been very patient with us. That we move the trail closer to the river. So that way, if they ever want to develop this area, they can develop it. We can still keep the trail. There's an ATC power line here, transmission line here. We already have approval from ATC to move underneath that power line. And basically we have, the easement approval to basically move it to the river. Then it crosses onto an on-road portion here, from Mill Road, to New York. I think that's, if I remember right, New York. Yeah, New York. So this is all on road. It is signed. It's a bike lane. It's dedicated. And then that's where it continues into the cemetery, and that's gravel from the cemetery up to Lakeview Moore Drive. The goal would be to pave the cemetery and then basically pave brand new the cemetery area. And then this area, including moving, and then repair our area down here. The long-term goal, and the reason why it's a long-term maintenance savings for the county, is back in 2013, when the Heritage Crossing Bridge, maybe go to the next slide, I think it's on there. Yeah, perfect. When this bridge was put in, the pedestrian accommodations were put in alongside of it. It crosses jurisdictions, both the town and the city. So when that was done, the county agreed that we would take over maintenance of that particular bridge since it's multi-jurisdiction. And then we asked the city to take over this portion. And at the time, the city said, we'll take it over as long as you fix your portion. So we've been working through that. There's been easement issues. There's been, Mary Ann's office can attest. We've had, for 2 years, my first 2 years, we had monthly meetings with the city corp council and our county corp council to work through just a lot of property issues of who owns what. There's either easement issues down by UWO, and get all that cleared up. So the goal would essentially be for this portion to be paved and then turn it over to the city of Oshkosh. So then that way they can maintain it in the future and it's not a county maintenance issue any longer into the future, because even asphalt trails, so even if we do fix this trail by UWO, which is actually further south, but even if we do fix that trail, there's still crack sealing, there's still seal coating that has to be done every 7 to 10 years. That would be a county expense. We just have been, we must be ignoring it in the past, and we weren't taking care of the issue. So we would be repairing it and then turning it over. That would ultimately, one last thing I just want to point out with that would ultimately create a paved completely, like a complete loop that's basically operated by the city town Oshkosh, but obviously we're helping with the maintenance of that bridge. So you'd have a 4.6 mile loop that families can get to. That's pretty much, other than this section right here past their city of Oshkosh's new park, except for this small section here is all off-road and safe for a family to, ride their bikes and walk in a circular loop. All right, next one. All right, so then the next project is the kayak rental stations. This one does meet 5 of the different categories, because obviously it's not an existing maintenance issue. But what it does is it provides access to the water for those that maybe don't own a boat, don't own a kayak, don't have the ability otherwise. These have been installed. There's one in Oshkosh right now. I know this particular company is actually, Kimberly and Little Chute have some on the river. Nina's putting one in, Appleton's putting in, I believe, 2. And then I heard Menasha was putting in 1. So they're becoming popular. So the point is that users and residents are gonna know what these are and that these are available and how to use them. The nice part is if I want to rent a kayak, I can go on my phone, rent a kayak. It's gonna give me basically the ability of Bluetooth to unlock the lock. The nice part is, these are all owned, all the kayaks, and the system where they order them is all, it's not county run. So it's not gonna require more county staff. The county has to pull a pad, and then we have to defer people when they have questions over to the company if for some reason the app's not working, or for some reason they had an issue with their payment. None of that would go to the county. And the nice part too is it's also small. It's a small revenue generator. It's not going to bring in, thousands upon thousands of dollars, but it allows people to get out on the lakes. We're proposing to put it at Grumman, which has a brand new, actually looks very similar to this. This isn't the exact picture. But basically it has a fully accessible ramp and kayak launch with a seat so you can get out onto your kayak. We'd be looking to put one at the Asylum. These are both on Lake Winnebago. And then Eureka, which is actually on the Fox River. So we'd be proposing to put them out at those locations, so that way people could get out onto the water and a very affordable. It's typically about $20, for instance, to rent the kayak. Go to the next one. All right. So this is where we get into kind of what I was talking about too, with comprehensive outdoor rec plan. We also dove deeper into the community park because it has so many assets and it's such a large property that we maintain. We had, in the past, we had a master plan for a small section, then we had a master plan up here. We needed one cohesive master plan to really look at the park as a whole. Let's just go one more slide. Perfect. So that's what we did. So we, like I mentioned, we did a survey that was specifically dedicated to the master park. We had, we met with all the soccer groups, the rugby groups, pickleball, the disc golf, the Hmong Festival organizers. Pretty much, we met with all the different organizers. We also had open public meetings, and then we did the survey to try to help determine, on top of staff input and engineering input, what we should do with the community park. So what this shows, I wanted to kind of show, so there's, actually, let's go back one more time. I apologize. I should show one more thing before we move. So we divided it into 3 different phases. The blue is phase 1. You'll see all the blue. The pink is phase 2, and then the orange is phase 3 or future phases, future projects. Now let's go back. So so basically this request and the capital improvement plan that was approved by the county board 2 months ago would address all of phase 1. So we would completely take care of phase 1, which phase 1 focused on the maintenance. So in red circles, we have the Spirit Fund request, which is the redoing 4 soccer fields, and I won't go too in depth because we have each project real quick. Adding an additional soccer field, adding an additional rugby field, removing, which is the yellow, removing the south softball field, and then adding a premier rugby field and a shelter concession stand and a accessible playground. And then removing the other shelter, basically we'd be moving the shelter and playground. And then the pickleball courts here in red. Now, purple is all the capital projects that were already approved by the county board, that are already in motion. We have either engineers on board, we've met with highway, or we're already starting to do some of the work or ordered some of the equipment. So we've already done all the parking lots down here. So repaving all the parking lots that haven't been paved yet, other than we're holding off on the pavilion. Removing a parking lot on the south side because it doesn't get it gets only used during special events. So we just make sure it's graded to be able to park people on grass. Removing long-term maintenance once again. Remodeling shelter 1, 2, and 4. And one thing I want to note that I didn't note last night too at the board meeting is through this process, we found that actually shelter 1 and 2, and if you've been out at the community park, those are our bigger shelters, are actually going to be less to remodel more than likely than shelter 4. Hence why we're proposing to get rid of shelter 3 because of the maintenance issues, even though those 2 are bigger and older. We'll go to the next one. So we'll go to each project. So this is shelter 3 and the playground replacement. This one addresses 5 of our goals. It's not on the water, so it doesn't provide any extra access to water. You'll see our playground from 1997, and then you'll see our shelter. These shelters are kind of a hybrid. They're built with wood and some masonry. Basically, the bathrooms are masonry and the rest is surrounded by the wood. We do have issues with basically the whole siding needs, and we've been looking at it with the other shelter with having to replace the siding. It doesn't support the function of that area anymore. When they have their tournaments, or even when they have normal rugby, it really just has, you know, one stall for men's, one stall for women's. It just doesn't support the capacity anymore. It doesn't have the ability for concessions. And something needs to occur with the building. And like I mentioned with the playground, our playgrounds are getting older. We need to start either replacing them or removing them and not replacing them. So the proposal then is to remove these existing, which I think if you go to the next page. Okay, so removing those, let's stay in the removing phase. As you'll see, this is our softball field, south softball field. You'll notice there's a huge gap underneath the score tower. That, and yes, it looks maybe a little bit more angled than it really is, but it does have a slight angle to it. It's starting to get to the point where this is gonna be a safety issue and we need to remove them anyways. You'll see our fence lines, they're rusting, the caps don't align, the fences are leaning. Those are all old light towers. Scoreboard is probably the one thing that still works pretty well. So we either have to replace the fencing, remove or replace a score tower, or like we're proposing to completely eliminate it. And if, which does all of these because it is all three maintenance, and then it's still keeping the open space and it's increasing capacity for rugby because right now, and over the last, I shouldn't say right now, because it's not just a reactionary thing. Over the last many years, softball has been going down in numbers. The Oshkosh Rec Department uses our softball diamonds, but they have been leaning more on using the city's diamonds. And in conversation with them, they're in support of removing a diamond because they are happy with the long-term growth and future down at the city's parks. So once again, us focusing more on what our strong suit is, which if we go to the next page, is rugby. And you're not gonna find many rugby fields in the area. I know there's one in Little Chute. There's, I think, one or two other in the Fox Cities, but you're not gonna find many, let alone, right now we have three. We have two full size and one that's not quite a full size. So the idea would be to then replace this area, which creates open space, which is a lot easier to maintain for us, into a rugby field. And then we'd also be moving the shelter and playground here. And the other bigger reason for moving the shelter and playground then on this side is it would be next to the premier rugby field. It would be next to our softball field, so concessions could work for either function. You're not having to cross the road for it. And then if the tennis and pickleball courts, those are expanded, now you have a bathroom too and a concession stand that serves the middle of the park. So you're right, because over here in our existing tennis courts, they're actually crossing the road to go to shelter number 4. Once again, those are one of those smaller bathroom count shelters too. So no matter which sport or activity you're taking place, and keep in mind disc golf, hole number 1 is right here too. No matter what sport you're taking part in, you know, if your kids are gonna go over while you're playing softball or while mom's or dad's playing tennis or playing rugby, basically the kids could be on the playground or and then also it's safe to go to the bathroom without crossing the road. Let's go to the next one. So that's the rugby complex and the shelters. Then we go down to soccer, kind of mentioned, basically we have a soccer complex of 15 mostly full-size fields. It does break down, because we do break down the fields into smaller for the youth, to about 20 fields when you break them all down. Believe it or not, that's still not enough. And what we have an issue with is basically these fields are very bumpy, unsafe, you know, not graded very nicely. These ones, which are in the picture here, have a heavy clay content, so we don't have a lot of topsoil on them. So once they do take a beating, they're very hard to grow back. Also doesn't have a very great crown on it. And then here on this end, we also do have a lot of issues with water. So what we're looking to do, because we know we can't do the whole complex due to cost, is we want to start and focus on one area, and then we also have some of the other areas in future phases, or as the groups like OIC, United Soccer, as they would help to donate and fundraise for additional funds. So the goal would be to essentially till up all 4 fields, regrade, recrown, create the swales between the fields so water can drain, and reseed these fields. If we go to the next one then, to help with the capacity, we'd be adding an additional field up on the hill, just right next to it, with irrigation, because these do already have irrigation. So we'd be extending the irrigation on this one as well. that was the other reason why we targeted these fields, because we have irrigation on these fields and these fields, but not these ones. So if we do these ones to start too, that's also gonna cost money with irrigation. But what it allows us to do is we know we can maintain these fields going in the future in a better way because we have the irrigation, we'll continue to aerate. These fields have not been done since 1993. So it's been a long time. They've held up very well. And the whole complex was 93, not just that section. So it does last a long time. Once again, it meets all of our goals other than the water. And this is just a snapshot of a calendar of our schedule for fall. We definitely do not have nearly as many teams playing out there as in the spring, but you can see we already have 2 days that are completely filled. And then we actually, the reason these don't have as many, because we limited, that's these fields here. We closed down these 3 fields in fall. So we only allowed a limited amount on it. And that's part of our issue too, is we have to close down fields more often. I think we have one more slide. Yeah, perfect. And then the last one is the pickleball courts. And you can see I listed the goals that were met there. And it is a growing sport. So we do have the tennis basketball courts down here. And then to the north, we will propose, that's where we would create the pickleball court complex. There's an existing parking lot. Well, it's a better picture. There's an existing parking lot here. I mentioned we have shelter 4 here. And then with the shelter and the new concession stand and the new bathrooms over there, we have more capacity for the bathrooms. You know, a larger complex, as you saw with all the other ones, rugby, we'd have 4 fields when everything's complete. Rugby has a wait list right now with their 3 fields, and they bring in teams from other states, outside the county. Basically, you know, when we're looking at a lot of these projects, it's also an economic growth factor too. Because same thing with soccer, we have many different tournaments out at the park. We're turning basically people away from utilizing the soccer fields as it is right now. So that would be the thought process here. We have 36 disc golf holes. Is that if we build a complex, it would be something that tournaments can come in, that people can come off 41 right to our park with plenty of parking, and plenty of ability to use the space. And I think then it goes to the cost page. So then this is where we broke down to how we got our cost. That's the 751,000 I was talking about from Waukau, the 500,000 for Waiau Wash Trail, for paving the trail. The bowl at 3 rental stations are 40,000 total. And then the Winnebago County Community Park. We do have an engineering line item in there because we would need some engineering assistance with the Waiau Wash Trail and a lot of we're building buildings and infrastructure at the community park. So we would definitely need engineering in that area, especially if we've had issues with water in the past. So we want to make sure things are graded correctly. We do site surveys. We already have engineering approval, like I mentioned, from the county board from last year for Waukau Dam through construction. So we don't need more engineering for that. And then the rental stations, you know, don't need any engineering. We're just pouring pads for that. And I think one more slide. So yeah, so this has, once again, where all the projects are located. This is kind of the zoom into the master plan of the community park since that had so many projects in it. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
Vice Chairman Farring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question per se. I would like to proceed.
Okay.
Let me thank you, Adam, for your second presentation. I've heard it before. I want to thank Supervisor Buck for his passion in this issue and Supervisor Bender for the comments in regard to the land and water resolution, the $3 million and the model that represents unexpectedly. However, there's a portion of this I cannot support. And that deals with the Waiau Wash Trail. What we're doing there is really bad policy for this county. We're asking for $500,000 of Spirit Fund money to redo the trail, realign the trail, and give it to the city of Oshkosh free. That I cannot support. Therefore, I will move to approve the resolution at $3,400,000, definitively reducing the $500,000 for the Waiau Wash Trail from this project. Do I have a second?
Thanks for a lack of a second. Okay. There's been no motion on this? Yeah. No. All right, I guess I'll make the motion, so we get the discussion going, allocation of, 3.9 million in spirit fund from the county government projects category to improve outdoor recreation in Winnebago County. Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Quick question to add. How else would this get paid for over the years? You've obviously done a really thorough needs assessment. These things are needed for the 170,000 Winnebago County residents that all can use these outdoor spaces. How else would you suggest this would get funded?
Well, when working on this list with Executive Damo and looking at our capital improvement plan, a lot of these projects would have to be done either through donations, fundraising efforts, through community groups, or we'd be having to do it through what we're working with, like what we were talking about, the facilities assessment. All these projects would have to be potentially bonded for. Obviously, the goal, as I mentioned in the beginning, would be to try to find as many grants or donation opportunities as possible. I do know, as an example, the rugby club already has a website built, because what our goal, and I didn't mention this, but I did mention it last night, is with all these projects, what you'll notice is our portion is to try to get the meat of it done. So you have a playing surface to play on. If you want bleachers and lights and extra amenities at those resources, that would be the groups and the clubs that take care of that. So I know, like, for instance, as rugby as an example, they've showed me a website they've already created that if this were to be approved, they want to start fundraising for bleachers, for those extra amenities that are going to enhance the facility for their programs. Without this, yeah, rugby's still gonna have a waiting list. The soccer clubs are gonna still come complaining to me that I'm turning them away from playing soccer on the fields. It's, we're still gonna have the Wash Trail, we still have to fix it. It's our trail. So we have to fix it, down by the asphalt trail. We do have to move it, because the property, I looked at that today, because that was a question, it was a really good question that came up at the board meeting. And thank you Supervisor Borchard actually for calling me and asking this question about, the easement and because some easements are written differently. From what I saw from the easement is that it actually does say that they can force us to move it. So, but they've been working with us very closely. They're gonna pay for the moving of their fence. Like, so there's a portion that company is gonna pay. Yes, the cemetery section, is, I guess you could say, extra. I would argue, the one thing I would say is you look back at the numbers of how many people are on the Wash Trail. I definitely don't think it's just Oshkosh residents, that are on that trail. We have 40,000 people going by Westwind, or 22,000, just be safe. I'm going by Westwind, and that's if they make it as far as Westwind.
Question. Yeah, I just got a couple of things. First of all, I really appreciate the amount of work you put into this and the amount of work that we've been having back and forth. A couple of things to highlight is number one, there's a lot of matching opportunities in there. And the direction is that if you are granted the 3.9, to try to figure out what we could do to make it closer to $6 to $8 million. In the presentation, there's raised grants and a whole bunch of other things out there that I think that we can bring in to the Wash Trail to really have more than what is proposed here as far as what we add to it. Second, I want to just say that Supervisor Ferrari, I understand your concerns. I do respect your opinion very much. So. Very good. And I think one of the reasons why we discussed that is because that long-term cost. There's going to be some money up front to pave this, and then it's the cities, and it is no longer ours, so it doesn't keep coming back and being 200,000 years to come, so that we can just kind of walk away. But I understand your desire to say if they're gonna take it over, let them fix it. So I don't want that to go unnoticed. And third, if this does get improved, and one of the things that me and Anna have been talking about is the playground, that would be done by the shelter. That I would like that eventually to go to facilities committee as a naming purpose, and that I would like some dedication there to recognize Pam Delap. And Paul and Pam were both servants, and she was very active in ADA compliance and playgrounds. And I'd like that to be
something for us to consider if this does go forward, that Adam would also look for matching grants to try to add or enhance that playground, to have as many ADA accessible components to it as possible.
Tim?
Going off of, Supervisor Ferry's comments, have we had any discussions with the city as to whether they would contribute half of the cost of the trail?
Yeah, that's a good point. Real good point. There's some other issues that have to deal with. So I'm saying.
You want to answer this? Yeah, I would. Yeah, there have, we talked about, even we could transfer the money. Most likely they would be using our highway department or somebody else, to do it anyway. We just thought it was the quickest way, and sometimes there's a little give and take if you want somebody to take over the entire trail. So they would, and just to clarify, they would be responsible for the entire paved loop, right?
Not the tribal heritage crossing.
Well, except for the bridge, because that's DOT, correct? That's
That's
state owns that?
Yeah, so when the state built that, we as the county back in 2013, but planning phases before it opened. They said they basically needed someone to take responsibility of maintenance if they were to add that additional, and the county did take responsibility for the maintenance. The idea though was with the conversation with the city and the town was that then the city would take responsibility of this section.
And just to be clear, I just want to clarify, that means, not only just maintenance, but upkeep plowing, for example.
Correct.
Right?
We don't plow it. But maintain, so we sweep it every year. We do run the trail, we pull, we weeds and those types of things. It's pretty low maintenance, but there's still maintenance to
Does
be
the
had.
city
It's
currently
concrete.
do snow removal on their portion of the trail? don't
There, we do not remove, snow like on the cemetery area or down by, I know the university does by UWO. Their new park, I'm not sure if the city's been removing snow through there since it's so new, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have had some conversations.
Supervisor Cox, did you have anything to offer Vice Chairman Parry?
Thank you. I continue to understand the justification for this, but that begs the question. As you indicated back in 2013, we reached an agreement with them and they agreed to take the trail. The question is, at this point in time, why don't we just give them the trail as it is and not spend $500,000 of it, of spirit fund money, to encourage them to take the trail? Some people might call that blackmail. Some people might call that all kinds of other words here. But it's, they're getting the trail. They're getting the property for free. That should be good. Giving them $500,000 to enhance them to take it, or maybe they're requiring that I don't know, is to me, not reasonable.
That brings up a good point between Vice Chairman Parry and Tim's over there. Have they actually been talked to?
Can I, ask Ethan and Adam?
What I was gonna say to Supervisor is we have a meeting with the Parks Director in the next days on another project. And so we can have those conversations based on the way the resolution's written. The other thing we could do is there is a whole jurisdictional transfer process with the Department of Administration and Department of Transportation.
Yes, that's great.
So I think before we would spend money here, we would make sure that's further down the train tracks than it is now. Number one. Number two, if there is a different negotiation because of the way the resolution's written for cost share, we would also make sure that, the wheel wash goes 20 some more miles, that 500,000 would be used to go there. So there's a federal grant called the RAISA grant. I think that's probably the most likely solution we do. We partner with the city of Oshkosh to apply for that federal grant. There was like 130 some trails funded last fiscal year 23 in that program, and get a better application and then do more on the entire Wash with the 500,000 match. So with the way the resolution's worded, we can take the concerns of the policymakers and make sure that, okay, if the jurisdictional transfer is gonna happen, this needs to be further down the track. And then what's our strategy with federal and state grants, because this gives us that pot of match to do more. So,
So do we need to lay this over? till we
no,
get
the
those
resolution,
answers?
no, the resolution's written in a way that, we're almost required to go seek other grants rather before we spend the money. So it's written in a way that we'll accomplish all those things.
The way I interpret it, it's actually written that we have to improve this trail before it's transferred. That's how I interpret what he's.
That's not in the jurisdictional transfer is not in the resolution. What is in the
Both the presentation as to intent and the intent apparently of the Parks Committee
right,
to spend those funds for that purpose.
right, but the resolution is suggesting we want to get more capital and get other grants, and so. We've been,
Outside of the 500 grand, I support everything.
yeah, we've
It's
encouraged,
just spending that money and giving it to Oshkosh.
in this particular case, the direction from the county executive is Adam has to apply for the federal RISE grant. And get more money for this section, so it's not all county money going to this section. Yeah.
Is this similar to what happened in Winnebago? I mean, we handed over a park and then we paid to fix it up and now they're gonna make revenue off of that barn. I mean, it kind of sounds like the same, I don't know.
No, it's, and our Supervisor Bender, at the county board meeting brought up the town of Clayton also, there was an issue there. I'm afraid, you've got apples and oranges there though, so I'm quite aware of the issue with Clayton and County Road T and all that stuff. And if I can elaborate on that for the benefit. What happened, there is County Road T used to run through Larson. And, the county highway department for years have been urging the town of Clayton to give them Pioneer Road, which would run it right straight up to Double I. Instead of going through Larson, you would run right straight through. Town of Clayton was back and forth on it, and they finally said, okay, we'll give you Pioneer Road to extend and make it County Road T. But in exchange, we want the old County Road T running through Larson improved. In other words, they reblocked up. So it was requesting in response to a gift. That's not here at all. I mean, the issue here is they initially wanted the property, the Wyowash Trail. We've decided after all these years, okay, we'll give it to you now. And they're saying, wait a minute. I want it all paved. I want it realigned at a cost of 500,000 and then I'll take it. I do not support that. That is just so wrong.
Adam? If I may clarify just a few items, the city has not been requesting for it. They haven't been asking for the property. The county has actually been requesting that the city take the property for the last several, and be aware, I've only been here 3 years and.
That was part of the deal in
Yeah.
2013. Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
That's my
and, so a few things, just to answer a few questions. In terms of the process of whether or not the city would take it and all the different paperwork. So we already do have ATC permission. We have a draft easement all set. And actually that's between the city and Meritor. We've worked through the agreement and releasing the old agreement. So we do have, at least with the city staff and county staff. Now, it hasn't been to city council, and obviously it hasn't been to the county board yet. But there is intent that items are ready to be transferred. The biggest thing that the city had requested through that process was the repair to the existing. Which that's the part that I can find is understandable, that it's our property that we've been maintaining, we want them to take it. The cemetery section, I think would be a benefit to the residents, but to your point, it's a trail right now and it could be used, it could even be plowed. And then also just to echo what Ethan was talking about, when I was mentioning the grants, this is one of the areas, trails that have a lot of grant opportunities, whether it's RAISE, RTP, there's a lot of different national grants and state and local grants where we can leverage these funds For instance, the snowmobile clubs through the comprehensive outdoor rec plan talked about widening bridges and repairing bridges. We have 8 bridges along the Waiawash Trail. That's another, actually in 2028, the county has, in the capital improvement plan for 2028, there's funds in there for widening trail or bridges. There's grants out there for that. We can use this as matching dollars for that. So basically, we can stretch this small project in the city, like what Ethan's talking about, into helping the whole trail. And maybe that should have been part of the presentation, but we were kind of mentioning that with the grant dollars.
Don?
Yeah, you did a lot of community surveys and you had a lot of community input. You had a lot of input from trail users and people that ride bikes and whatever, whatever mode of transportation it may be. But the request of paving this portion has been long before we talked about any jurisdictional transfer. So transfer aside, if we weren't even looking to transfer it, we'd still be looking at paving this thing.
I do get calls every year, for people
Correct.
asking, can you plow it?
And
Can you pave through the summer? So I do receive those calls.
And I've heard, plenty of them, so one way or the other, Supervisor Corey, I think we'd be looking at something along this lines anyways. And the only thing is, if we can do it and then future maintenance is off our hands, that's I look at it the other way, is that's a positive, long-term. But I can tell you that paving this is not a new idea. It is not a tit for tat, if you would. This is something that's been a request of people for a while. I remember dealing that back when I was on the chamber, board in Oshkosh 8 years ago. We heard about this. And it was the idea of, they wanted the full loop and the pressure was on us to do it, and I don't know what happened. That was before my time at the county. But I can tell you, transfer or not, this is a request to be done.
I might respond, I support improving county-owned property. I do not support improving the city of Oshkosh property at Winnebago County taxpayer expense. That's an issue. Can't put it any simpler. Goes to some other things, John.
The county owns it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so if we're gonna improve it and keep it, I would support that. But if we're gonna improve it and give it to the city, I got an issue with that.
There's a motion on the floor and second to allocate $3,900,000 in spirit fund from county government projects category to improve outdoor recreation in Winnebago County. Roll call. Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Buckets.
Absent.
Porter.
Aye.
Fari.
No.
Egan. Aye. Commissioners, Galloway.
Aye.
Oswald.
Aye.
Belter.
Aye.
And Dale.
Aye.
7-1. Next meeting date time.
One, Mr. Chairman, do we have one in early April?
Well, if we could get one in early April, that way we'd sure have all the commissioners that are on. Jim says he don't care if it comes to us.
Oh, it just gets better.
Yeah, I think it makes sense after the next board meeting so that we know.
Yeah.
We can prepare that resolution and, yeah.
So,
Even if it's just that resolution, then okay.
I don't know, 4th, 11th.
to give Mary Ann time to get the resolution written so we can get them into the board.
Well, how many are, I mean,
We
The,
don't have
we
any.
don't have, I mean, how many are?
it'd just be the one on what to do with the rest of the bottom and the.
Oh, yeah,
interest.
yeah.
And the interest.
The,
So,
So do we know?
the deadline for county board is Monday the 15th, the business meeting in April.
16th, so you're looking at the Monday
What do you
before.
For,
The deadline by rule for the business meeting in April is Monday the 15th.
no. Why would, because that's right, business meeting is the 23rd. So yes, you're right. It's the fourth Tuesday. in
Oh,
April,
yes,
not the
that's
third
right.
Tuesday. in April.
Yeah. So we could do the 11th?
I'm out. You're on?
Uh,
Should be our last meeting.
Thursday.
We could miss it.
That's assuming none of the new members are sworn in before
No, that statute's the third Tuesday. So
the
they-
16th.
Yeah, the third Tuesday is when the new
The
term starts.
16th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is for our last meeting on when do you want it?
So here's.
Anybody wanna do Friday the 12th? I'm out that week. So you're open the first week? I'm open the first, second, or third.
No.
Then I'm out till the 15th.
You can do Friday.
Second or third, or, well,
It's easy for me. I'm looking at staff right now.
you could do
If you don't
Wednesday.
speak up, we're gonna have it tomorrow.
Wednesday the third.
Oh, just so you have it in the afternoon, because we got PNS in the
Works
morning.
for us.
Third works for
What
Mary.
about the?
Wednesday is typically a good day because we're not in court.
Never else get them out, so that would them out. How about the third? Mary Ann said it works
Wednesday.
for their staff.
So for you,
It just runs me right flush into my.
Yeah.
I'm doing this, we got the,
Tomorrow.
yeah, got the, no, the second, there's,
Yeah, but tomorrow you have PNF too.
so. No. The third.
third of April.
Third of April.
You've got a
Nothing
PNF.
going on that day.
I've got a PNF for following.
Yeah, right.
The third. Everybody the third?
Then we're
Third.
You got 1 o'clock, same place?
We'll clerk, we'll figure it out. We can clerk it. We can make it work.
Alright. 1 o'clock, third, same place.
Then I move to adjourn.
You want to hear?
Here.
Okay.
This
Or,
is nice.
or downstairs, wherever, but this works
I
out.
like
Okay.
this.
Yeah.
This is nice and airy.
Second, right, motion made second adjourn, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned.
Four more minutes. Morris, 4 more minutes. We could have stayed 4 more minutes and then called it the day. Come on, we all done you for this bracket.
Yeah, we can train, there'll be, somebody will be trained, but if the opening day, it's opening day. Tom, when's opening day?
Yours?
Yeah, is it the
Oh,
second?
that might be the second one.
Okay, good, because I'm not here the first, the second, and
Hey, where do you live then? Is that-
Jackson.
Jerry, I'm Jerry Medard.
No. No, I don't. Oh, I came
Down there.
No. Right. No, my senator actually becomes fine. So Fine's
Okay.
running in my rival in Tennessee, and
I have
then
one more
my state rep is
PM for you this time.
So strong if you're there.
no, I live in the village.
Well, Morris,
Okay.
you want to know on